morning. It's 5 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The Army veteran who was hell-bent on killing as many people as possible while plowing a rented pickup truck through a New Year's crowd in New Orleans is himself dead. Shamsuddin Jabbar killed at least 15 people. Afterwards, he jumped out of his truck and opened fire on police, who killed him. At least 2 police officers were injured, one by gunfire, and the other when the officer was pinned by the truck. They're both expected to be okay. The FBI, though, is now trying to find other suspects that they believe Jabbar was working with. But 3 men and a woman who were allegedly seen placing explosive devices before the incident have reportedly been cleared of any wrongdoing. Now, in a brief appearance last night, President Biden said that the FBI told him that mere hours before the attack, Jabbar had posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS and expressing a desire to kill. Those videos were apparently made while Jabbar was driving from his home state of Texas to Louisiana. They're pretty dark, and it's hard to see Jabbar. But in the videos, he does talk about his divorce and a desire to kill members of his family as well. The FBI said last night that it plans to turn the New Orleans investigation over to local authorities at some point today. Now, just hours after that incident, a Tesla truck rented from the very same little-known car rental app exploded in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, killing the driver. That truck was loaded with explosives, and the FBI is looking into whether the 2 incidents are related. Well, some other stories leading the news today. Special Counsel Jack Smith has withdrawn his appeal of the classified documents case against President-elect Donald Trump's co-defendants and referred that case to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida. He had already dropped the appeal against Trump due to a longstanding Department of Justice policy against prosecuting a sitting president. Smith filed the appeal after U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon dismissed Smith's case in July, citing the constitutionality of his appointment as special counsel. Smith has also been winding down his federal election interference case against Trump following the election. And he's also expected to issue a report on his investigations to Attorney General Merrick Garland in the coming weeks before he steps down as special counsel. In local news, a 17-year-old has been charged after allegedly shooting at a vehicle. And in doing so, he injured his 2 younger sisters. Metro Nashville police haven't identified the teenager, but they do say he opened fire on the vehicle in Antioch Park on Blue Hole Road at around 5 o'clock on New Year's morning. His 2 sisters were aged 12 and 13. They suffered non-critical injuries. 5 others were in the car. They weren't hurt. The teenager showed up at a hospital where those sisters had been taken and confessed to the shooting, saying that he had believed those inside the car were involved in a series of burglaries. He's been charged with attempted murder now in juvenile court. And Tennessee's age verification law was set to go into effect yesterday, but that law's been put on hold now by a Tennessee district court judge who granted the group called Free Speech Coalition's motion for a preliminary injunction. Now, this so-called Protect Tennessee Minors Act would have given parents more control over their kids' online activity, as well as tightening restrictions on social media accounts and access to adult content. But the Free Speech Coalition argued that the law would also suppress a large amount of speech, and that's protected by the Constitution. The group says the well-intentioned but deeply flawed law could put website operators at risk for criminal prosecution for trivial speech. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in. It is a Thursday, January 2nd. I'm all confused. Is it Monday? Is it Thursday? Is it Friday? It is Thursday, January 2nd. And boy, do we have a lot of news to report to you. Of course, going to talk about the two terror attacks, one in New Orleans, the other in Las Vegas. And I got to tell you, there's so much news to go over and so much news, of course, to digest as well. Let's, of course, first start in New Orleans.
The subject has been identified as 42-year-old Samsud Dim Jabbar, a U.S.-born citizen from Texas. An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations. We are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible.
All right, so we've got 15 dead, dozens is injured. The terrorist, of course, as you know, was shot and killed by police. There's so many stunning things about this, and Kathy Henners is going to join us at 6:36. But one of the things that's stunning about this case is that he was able to maneuver his truck around the barriers onto the sidewalk and then ram through this massive crowd. Friends, it is 2025. How did they manage to screw this up? It isn't hard. You put on barriers so that these kind of psychopaths can't get through those barriers through, if they don't put the barriers on the sidewalk and they can get around the barriers, you use more barriers, you put spike strips down. Bottom line is, we've been doing this and dealing with these kinds of people for a long time. So how is it possible that they allowed this guy to maneuver around the barriers? It is stunning. And then you're sitting there and you're watching. You're watching the press conference. Did you watch the press conferences? So you've got all these people, the local authorities there, and they're all making really strong statements, right? We're going to be really tough, and we're just going to make sure that the city of New Orleans gets through this. And I'm watching all of this, and I'm sitting here thinking, you people screwed up. You people made massive mistakes because you didn't have enough barriers in place. They were not strategically placed so that the guy couldn't maneuver around the barriers. Again, we've been dealing with this a long time, worldwide. So how did you not have spike strips down? How did you not have the barriers there so that he wasn't able to get around these barriers? They just left a hole, a big hole, wide open. And so it's really sad because there's a number of things that are going on, as you know. Number one, we've had a wide open border for how long? For 4 years? And so you've got President Biden out there, and President Biden is saying, oh, well, this guy, was an American citizen. Yeah. But he was radicalized somehow. And so that's what they're trying to figure out is that radicalization. By the way, Senator John Kennedy, of course, out of Louisiana, asked about other terror attacks. He had this alarming answer. I want you to listen to this. I think he was on Fox News, and he was being interviewed.
Are you getting the sense that there's any threat of any other potential attacks tonight on any other major cities?
I can't answer that. I can, but I won't.
I mean, she asked him, are there other American cities that are in peril, in danger? He says, I can answer that, but I won't, which clearly means that the answer is, of course. America is not safe. We haven't been safe since Joe Biden opened up the damn border. Now, I know that this dude was born in Texas, and he drove to New Orleans to do what he did. He also had some associates who are trying to figure that out. But President Biden agrees that this guy was inspired by ISIS, as told to him by the FBI. This is what the president said.
Indicating that he's inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he's inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
So one of the things that a lot of people are saying, and Donald Trump had a long post. Let me read the Donald Trump post real quick because it is pure Trump. Our country is a disaster, a laughingstock all over the world. This is what happens when you have open borders with weak, ineffective, and virtually non-existent leadership. The DOJ, FBI, and Democrat state and local prosecutors have not done their job. They are incompetent and corrupt, having spent all of their waking hours unlawfully attacking their political opponent, me, rather than focusing on protecting Americans from the outside and inside violent scum that has infiltrated all aspects of our government and our nation itself. Democrats should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this to happen to our country. He says the CIA must get involved now before it's too late. The USA is breaking down. A violent erosion of safety, national security, and democracy is taking place all across our nation. Only strength and powerful leadership will make it stop. See you on January 20th. Make America great again. So people are trying to say, and this is what stuns me. Are people really this dumb? So people are actually saying that Trump and people who are screaming, well, it's the open border, are wrong because this guy was homegrown, if you will. Anybody remember this story? Because here's the deal. We don't know this guy's journey to radicalization. We're going to get into that as the program continues to unfold. But anybody remember this story? 8 suspected terrorists with ties to ISIS arrested in Philadelphia, New York City, and Los Angeles in FBI sting operation. Remember that story? These guys were from Tajikistan. They were nationals with ties to ISIS. They were arrested in those 3 major cities after coming across our southern border. So how do we know? Because these are just the 8 that we caught. And I guarantee you that of the millions of people that have come across our southern border, there's a lot of them there, here in America now, that are trying to radicalize people just like Shamsud Dim Jabbar, the killer in New Orleans. So when you leave and this is what I would say to Joe Biden, obviously, and anybody who is trying to defend his wide open border by saying, well, the border has nothing to do with what happened in New Orleans because the guy was from here. How do you know how he was radicalized? How do you know how he was radicalized? How do you know that he wasn't radicalized by somebody who came across our southern border? We also need to know what the hell was going on in that mosque that was within walking distance of his home. And by the way, have you heard about this dude's home? We'll get into that as well. All 8 of those suspects that we talked about way back when, this was a few months ago, crossed the U.S. border illegally. Fox News saying the suspects were allowed into the U.S. pending asylum after being fully vetted. They were fully vetted and they were let into this country, even though they had ties to ISIS. It wasn't until they were released that authorities flagged them for having ties to the terror group. So in other words, yeah, this guy, Shamsud Dim Jabbar, was born in Texas and he drove to New Orleans to do what he did. That doesn't absolve the wide open southern border because this guy's radicalization very well could have come from across our wide open southern border. We don't know how he was radicalized. Here's what we do know. What we do know is we don't know what the hell's come across our southern border. Do we? No. So we don't know how many Shamsud Dim Jabbars there are out there. And let me ask you this other question. Do you think people really care whether or not this was a guy who was radicalized here in this country or was radicalized in another country and came across our open border? No. There's a lot to this. And so they're trying to figure out how dude was radicalized. You got to look at two things. You got to look at the wide open border. You've got to look at that mosque. Details straight ahead, 5:16. Time to check the roads on WTN.
We got a crash. The left lane blocks on I-40 eastbound at Donaldson Pike, exit 216B, and other way around the Nashville area, wide open. No traffic to report right now. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff gets to do traffic today, and apparently he's not quite used to.
That's what threw me off. I was expecting you to. I don't know why. I was expecting. You launched the tease for news. I was thinking you were going to launch traffic for some reason.
No, man, that's you.
That's
okay.
Me. Totally me.
Listen, here's the great news. It's like January 2nd, and while there's a lot of news going on, no pressure because there's not going to be a lot of traffic today. Yeah. So you're all good. And Joan's from home today. So if Joan is there, Joan's from home today.
I'm so totally here in my pajamas.
Are you in your pajamas?
So jealous of that.
Yeah.
That was like me the other day. I was in my pajamas and my fuzzy slippers.
Yeah, it's the best.
And I can guarantee you the coffee is a lot better at Joan's house.
It certainly is.
All right, so we'll get into all of that and a whole lot more straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So here's part of what's bizarre, because there's so many things. Whenever these things happen, and by the way, just so you know, of course, I do know what happened in Las Vegas as well. I'm going to get into all of that. Matthew Leivelsberger is said to be, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he is the guy that drove the Tesla truck in front of the Trump Tower in Las Vegas and exploded it. Of course, he is now dead. He drove from Colorado Springs apparently to Las Vegas to do that. And they both used that Turo app. And apparently it turns out now they both also served at the same military base because both of these guys served in the military. See what I mean? There is a lot to these stories, and so there is a lot to cover. Here's what was bizarre, because, again, there's a lot of very bizarre things. The FBI initially said that this was not a terror attack.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices.
What the hell is it? They knew that there was an ISIS flag on the dude's truck in New Orleans. They knew it. When the FBI said...
This is not a terrorist event.
They had already seen the ISIS flag on the back of his car, on the back of that pickup truck. So why would they say that? They've got this sort of reflexive thing where it's like, oh, God, if we admit that it's a terrorist attack, then we've got to start looking at the fact that it's radical Islam. We've got to start talking about the wide open border. And we've got to save radical Islamic terrorism and the wide open border at all costs. And that leads them to say some really absurd things.
This is not a terrorist event.
All right. And so then ultimately the FBI starts looking really, really foolish. Because, yeah, there was an ISIS flag strapped to the truck, to the back of the truck. And this type of attack is very emblematic of a typical ISIS attack. We see these kinds of things all the time, which is why when I opened up this morning, I'm asking the question, how the hell did they not have that street protected with barriers? I think they call them Jersey barriers. And if you watch the coverage, the guy was able to maneuver around the Jersey barriers onto the sidewalk and plows into that large group of people. So they didn't have enough Jersey barriers, or they should have put down spike strips to protect all of those people. So clearly there were a lot of mistakes made. And these kind of mistakes, I mean, you look back on, okay, so who knew what? Was this guy on the radar? And I don't know if he was on the radar or not. I'm going to try to find that out here because I have not seen anything right now that shows that this guy, Jabbar, was on the FBI's radar. A lot of people asking the question, was the FBI so incredibly focused on January 6th when the reality is that most of those folks, misdemeanors at best, and something that happened years ago, and so now is their eye off the ball when it comes to terrorism here in our country? Real terrorism by real bad guys. It is 521 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, the Super Text line is open. We'd love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. It is 522 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Joan Jones is not in the dust-encrusted WTN newsroom. She's at home with better coffee and her PJs. Joan, what's coming up?
Yeah, we'll tell you the link or two that were discovered between those two terror attacks on New Year's Day, and also why officials think there may have been something sinister about the downing of a South Korean jet. We've got those stories coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News. The Wall Street Journal reported a while ago that people are feeling stress, anxiety, and depression because of this election. If that's you, talk to my guy, Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He is a psychiatrist out in Nolensville. Now, he can help you with not only depression, if you're feeling it because of politics or whatever, but he can also help you with alcoholism, drug abuse as well. Go to his website, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. He's got a long list of conditions that he can help you with, either in person or at telehealth. Bottom line is, he wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get the help that you need. He can help your kids as well. Check him out online. Again, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. The number's below. Thanks for listening, and good luck. 526, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 5669 is yelling at me already this morning. Maybe because I started yelling first. And I was just telling KGB off the air, I don't like being the guy that yells in the morning because nobody likes a yeller in the morning. But he says 5669, and I don't know if this is true or not. He says spike strips would have zero impact on this guy completing his horrific mission. Flat tires do not and would not prevent him driving his vehicle down the street. Does it cripple the vehicle? Sure. It prevents getaway. That was not his mission, though. You want to shout about the barriers? Go ahead. Stop whining about spike strips, though. Pretty sure it would have slowed him down. I'm pretty sure that it would have crippled his vehicle so that he's not going. I don't know how fast Jabbar was going, but I'm pretty sure the spike strips would have slowed him down quite a bit. And if he's got 4 flat tires, then yeah, maybe people would have had more of an opportunity to get out of the way. 4702 says, and listen, I love feedback. Dan, they can't put spike strips down because some dumb drunk would have stepped on it and fell on them. See, that's pretty funny. You know what? That's probably true. That is probably true. I don't know. I don't want, it's hard because you can always second guess the cops. And you can always second guess everything. And I don't like to be a Monday morning or a Thursday morning quarterback. And it's always easy to say, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do this? But it's not just me. I mean, there's a lot of people that have seen how this guy was able to maneuver around the barriers and then, go speeding down that street and kill all those folks. And how he was able to do that is beyond me. As a lot of people are saying, how in the world did this happen? By the way, so I threw a lot at you in that first segment. Remember what Christopher Wray said back in 2023 and was reiterated in 2024?
The reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level. We assess that the actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration, the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate several years ago. In just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West.
Yeah. I mean, this testimony was literally going on as the war in the Middle East raged after Hamas attacked Israel. And so remember what we've seen in 2024. Pro-Hamas gatherings and protests all across America. College campuses taken over by anti-Semitic protesters. The Biden administration allowing Iran to continue to fund terrorism. I mean, with all of that going on, and you just heard the FBI director, Christopher Wray, warning us about terrorism here in America. And remember, just back in November, remember this? He and Alejandro Mayorkas refused to testify in front of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Remember that? And now this happens. The point of their testimony, then I got to run to news. The point of the testimony of Christopher Wray and Alejandro Mayorkas was to tell the Senate Homeland Security Committee the state of our nation as far as how safe it is. And now just a couple of months later, here we have a major terrorist attack in New Orleans. So, and I'm here to tell you, friends, and we're going to talk about this. This is obviously not the first, and I'm here to tell you, for everybody waiting for January 20th and how somehow magically these things aren't going to happen again, I got news for you. It is going to, and I've got details coming up. It is 5:30 on WTN.
5:31 now, and I'm Joan Jones with the latest stories. There are new connections between the two men who unleashed terror attacks on New Year's Day. The Texas man who plowed his truck through a celebratory crowd in New Orleans, and the Denver man who exploded a Tesla truck in front of the Trump Las Vegas hotel, both served at the same military base. They also both rented their vehicles using the same little-known rental app. Investigators said yesterday they did not believe that Samsud Din Jabbar acted alone. We're also learning about some of the 15 Bourbon Street victims. Among them were two recent high school graduates, a Princeton football star, a young mother, and a father of two. The New York Post is reporting dozens of others were injured, including a student from the University of Georgia, two Israeli citizens, and also a little girl who had been dancing just moments before she was mowed down. In other news, House Republican leaders have unveiled a new set of rules for the 119th Congress, including a provision that would make it harder to kick out a Speaker of the House without completely removing the threat. The motion to vacate rule would now require a total of 9 sponsors in order to be considered privileged on the House floor. During the last Congress, a single lawmaker was able to force a vote to vacate the chair, which former Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz used to remove then Speaker Kevin McCarthy. It also plunged the House into chaos for several weeks before Speaker Mike Johnson was selected. The threshold that allowed that single member to trigger a no-confidence vote to remove the speaker will be increased now to 9 members of the majority party in the 119th Congress. The House is expected to vote Friday to adopt the rules package after members elect a speaker and they're sworn in. Well, there are new questions about whether a bird strike was the sole cause of the deadly plane crash in South Korea, which killed 179 people. Officials initially pointed to a bird strike as a possible cause, but experts have also flagged the barrier that was at the end of the runway, with dramatic video showing the Boeing 737 bursting into flames as it collides with that barrier. A standard pre-flight inspection found no issue with that plane before it crashed. The airplane's landing gear also didn't come down, contributing to the devastation of that crash. That is the latest news. We've got traffic and weather coming up. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
We got another crash near the airport. Left lane blocked. I-40 westbound at International Airport exit 216A. And around the downtown Nashville area, still no signs of heavy traffic. All the lanes are wide open on all freeways. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.538 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Joan Jones is broadcasting from home today. And, Joan, I've been admonished. The audience a little testy today.
Oh, really? It's the new year,
Is that what it is?
Maybe.
So a
what
couple
are
of
they testy
people,
about?
couple of people saying that spike strips wouldn't have stopped this guy. Okay, fine. That's number one. I'm not a spike strip expert. Number two is calling me out for talking about you and your fuzzy slippers and pajamas because people are having a hard time focusing on the news because they're imagining other things.
Oh, that's weird.
Well, listen. I'm just saying. That's what people are saying.
So the reason that I'm working from home is because I had another surgery on my wrist. And so little difficult to drive, but this one wasn't terrible. So
I thought you were going to make the hubby drive you into work today.
Yeah, well,
didn't quite work out that way.
It didn't work out that way.
It's kind of funny. I had that arrangement with Amy one night, and she wouldn't get out of bed. I had to call an Uber.
You get here at like 2 a.m.
Well, usually I'm there. Actually, I usually get there at 3:30.
No, I was talking about Dan. Like, I understand his wife. 2 a.m. is a little different than 3:30.
Yeah.
It just depends. And by the way, Jeff, I'm waiting to see if anybody starts bagging on you about your traffic report because
What'd I do?
You called the highways freeways.
Oh my gosh.
People
so California.
lose their ever-loving minds. Because I did that because I was actually a traffic reporter in Los Angeles. So I always talked about the freeways. So when I got here and I was trying to figure out how the hell to say Demumbrian, and then I threw down the term freeways for like I-65 for whatever was going on. I mean, people just, it was like people lost their minds.
That's totally a California thing, right?
Yeah,
freeways in California.
I honestly had no idea that was a California thing. I just always, in my head, I'm like, highway is like the one that goes from, I don't know. I just always assumed they were two different things. I guess they're not in a sense, but
It's all right.
Completely just, I was going on autopilot when I'm talking about traffic because I'm reading off it.
All right, so real quick, Joan and KGB, what did you guys do for New Year's Eve? Now, Joan and I actually were texting back and forth, talking about how boring both of us are. We're just going to sit home and watch TV. And that's what we did.
Okay, so one thing that I did notice, so we were flipping back and forth between Channel 5's coverage of the Nashville downtown New Year's Eve party.
Yep.
And, going to the National, looking at Fox, same thing. So did you notice that Channel 5, totally gave up right before 12 o'clock and went to the national coverage?
No, here's what I noticed.
Well, we didn't get to see anything Nashville.
So there's a couple of things. You're right. Actually, I didn't make it that late. Here's what I noticed. What I noticed is that Channel 5 covering Nashville's deal. I forget what they called it, Nashville Boom or something.
It was Nashville's Big Bash?
Nashville's Big Bash, which is, in the past has been a favorite in my house. Well, we had like Kane Brown and Post Malone was great and Chris Stapleton. But what I also noticed, Joan, as you were flipping back and forth like I was that you had Blake Shelton and Carrie Underwood doing the national broadcast.
Right.
So,
yes.
I don't know if Blake Shelton and Carrie Underwood are still considered like the biggest, country stars, or personally, I think Post Malone is bigger than all of them, but whatever.
At the moment, yes, I would agree.
Yes, at the moment. And catch my little snark there. I'm a big Post Malone fan.
Carrie Underwood, I think, is like going to be historically known as one of the best.
Absolutely.
Post Malone is going to be one of the best too, but like when it comes to longevity, I think Carrie Underwood has that at the moment, but he could easily pass that. But
we'll see. We'll see.
I feel like they abandoned us.
Oh, yeah.
But Carrie Underwood?
Yeah, they should have been here in Nashville instead of
Blake Shelton is usually here.
Yeah,
that's what I don't get.
I wonder what the paychecks were like. I bet that swayed them.
Well, but it also shows you the power of country music.
Yeah,
I will say that as
true.
well. So I didn't make it till I did make it till midnight. I stopped watching TV. I went upstairs. I was exhausted, so I went upstairs about 11 o'clock, and I couldn't sleep. And I finally faded about 12:30. The great thing is, Joan, that I bested KGB because he said that he was asleep by 9.
Yeah, I was up. My sleep schedule is so because not only do I come in here at 4 a.m. for the weekday, on Sundays I also do the same thing. So my whole sleep schedule is basically there is no past 9 o'clock. That doesn't exist.
Party animals.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm getting old too.
And listen, working mornings you like. Listen, I'm actually only 41, but I feel 57.
Yeah.
And I look 103. Joan, how late did you wake up? And then I got something really fun.
So, I stayed up all the way probably to like 12:30, but that's because, I took a little nap during the surgery and then I came home and took a nap after that. So, I was pretty awake.
By the way, 3541 says, Dan, I'm a cop. Spike strips cannot be used as a barrier because of the danger to pedestrians.
Yes.
But you're still awesome, Dan. Thank you.
Someone could easily step on one.
See, here's what I mean.
Especially if they're drunk.
When people correct me and have a well, Dan moment, just tell me I'm awesome. That just tell me that I'm wrong, but then tell me I'm awesome. That's what I like. Thank you, Copper. All right, Mar-a-Lago.
Copper.
Cop. Thank you, 3541, Mr. Police Officer. This was a lot of fun. At Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump had the Village People. And listen to this. They're saying Trump man.
Trump man.
Oh, that's
Instead of
awesome.
young man, it's Trump man. I love that. It's actually the Village People, I think. By the way,
We talked about this before. Weren't some of them like anti-Trumpers?
One was not. I know one was a Trump
the
supporter.
lead guy,
the
yeah.
lead one. I'm not sure about the others. I wouldn't be surprised.
Listen, a gig's a gig.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the background, they've got, Trump up there doing the Trump dance. So that was fun.
Wasn't
as well.
Melania doing it too?
She had her own little. She's doing very tiny little motions.
Yeah.
I love Melania, man.
Yeah, me
She's
too.
awesome. Did anybody watch the CNN? They get drunk every year.
I know what this is going, but I did not watch it because
Are we in delay, Jeff?
we should be. Am I gonna have to hit the dump button?
I don't know. Let's listen. This was on CNN. This is Anderson Cooper, and I don't know who this other guy is.
25 is everything you want it to be. I'm really hoping we don't get fired. Well, sweetie, I don't think you're going to get fired.
Well,
I think you're good.
I got a contract.
I'm going back to Bravo. Well, I'm going back to Bravo. That's cool. Bravo, here I come. New season.
Did people really watch that?
It was.
Like,
it was. It was awful.
Yeah,
I did. I tuned in just to take a look. They were over the top.
I don't know why people find that funny, and I don't know why they do that.
I think
because
one guy
it's
was
just
like
dumb.
One guy was legit on LSD. He said he was like on acid.
Legit on LSD.
Yeah, he was. Like, if you saw his face, you would see like he was not all there, and he said he was. I think he said he was tripping, which would not surprise me. He just was like, yeah, man, I don't know what he said, but he looked like he was out of it, and then I think he just admitted right on air that he was on it.
Really?
Yeah. Is
it illegal to be on acid? Like, can they
Is
like
it
charge
Andy
him?
Cohen that was on
Was
acid?
it? I
his
don't
partner?
recall who it was, but it was someone. They had two screens, one live and one like on location somewhere else, and the guy on location was like the one tripping. You can easily find it on X.
Diplo is his name.
Diplo?
That's all I
Yeah.
need. Yeah, he must have been. That's a name that will trip.
All right, so everybody's talking about this. Is it Whitney Cummings?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she
Okay,
was
so
great.
I've got a couple of audio bites from Whitney Cummings. She was on CNN.
And since I only have a minute left live on Establishment Media, why don't we just say a bunch of things that we know that they'll never cover? Okay, ready, go. Trump Shooter didn't have any silverware in his house. No one thought that was weird? Are we still rolling? Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia put money into Disney, so just know there won't be any girl characters in the next Cars movie. Are we still rolling? This is wild.
All right, so that was fun. And here's one more from Whitney Cummings live on CNN.
Let me be clear, though. 2024 was not only negative. The media wants us to believe this country is so divided, but we actually came together a lot this year. Like, as a nation, we unanimously agreed that we would rather see J-Lo in a toxic relationship than in concert. We all agreed the government totally knows what drones are and are telling us. The drones are still up there, and we have no idea what's behind them. No idea. I mean, they're still up in the sky, so I guess we can rule out that they were made by Boeing. The point is, I think we all agree on a lot of things.
There you go.
Okay.
Whitney Cummings.
No dump button needed.
Not yet.
Wow,
Not yet.
Oh, there's still more?
There's some other audio of her. And there was one. There's a couple. I'll continue to play these throughout the morning.
Okay.
Because based on the news today, I think we're gonna have to try to find some diversions.
I will have the dump button ready just to be safe.
So Riker was and I had a great conversation, and he is now 11, and I'm now 57, and he was regaling me with the long monologue. He's learning to monologue like his bonus dad. And so he told me about how there's now a new generation, because the last generation, his generation, is Generation Alpha.
Oh, I'm doing this story coming up. I
Are
can't
you?
believe you're
And
doing
and
it right
now,
Yeah.
because he's into this stuff.
Yeah.
And the new generation apparently is Generation Beta.
Generation Beta.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
you mean like the fish?
Oh,
And
damn.
and he didn't find that funny. So, and apparently nobody else does either. So what is Generation Beta?
Beta is basically like, there's an alpha male. Those are the basically, if you're below that, like you're not an alpha male, you are. How do I describe this?
Are you like the wussified male? Is that what you are?
That beta basically means wussified.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Joan? Is that what you jive? Is that work with you?
I don't see that part of it. I don't have any idea about. I just know that they're calling the next generation Generation Beta.
Yeah, but that's not a good.
why?
That's not a good one to be named. That's the main. It's
Oh,
basically
so you think
insulting.
it's derogatory.
Well, I don't think it's intentionally supposed to be. But since the social media already made the word beta into something like that, it just makes it sound bad.
Who does this? Like, who makes up this?
That's a good question.
Like, who comes up with these things? I don't even know.
They'll be around, by the way, for the next 14 years. So it'll be Generation Beta this year, and then for the next 14 years.
Is the younger generation? Because I'm gonna be honest, Joan. Are you much into this? This is Generation Alpha, Beta, and so forth. Are you into that, Joan? Because
I don't know if I'm into it, but I'm the last year of the baby boomers.
I think the younger generation is really into these defined generations.
Yes.
Well, I'm a millennial, not a Gen Z. Thank God.
Okay.
Because Gen Z is the Harry Sisson group, and I'm not a part of that.
I don't even know who Harry Sisson is.
The guy on TikTok that was so pro Biden it hurt, like the kid.
He was ridiculous.
Oh, you mean he was an idiot?
Yeah. Well, he was paid.
Whatever.
He's a paid
I
hack. But that's basically the Gen. They did, like, him and like a couple of people did everything they could on TikTok and stuff to get Biden to win or Kamala to win, and obviously didn't work because they were so cringe.
1497. Tim Waltz is a beta male.
Correct. Yes.
7007 thinks soy boy.
Yeah.
It just basically, instead of standing up, they're sitting down, if that makes sense. That's more of a better way to describe it.
Post Malone is not country. And people are yelling at me. This is the kind of day I'm going to have.
He had one country song. I don't think he considered country artist.
Okay. KGB, you and I are going to fight today because have you heard his album? Have you heard 5150, the long bed version?
Oh, here we go.
Have you KGB? Do they?
No.
Okay.
I listen to 2000s music like a real man. And classic 80s and 70s.
Ooh.
I think Joan, I think Jeff and I are going to have our first fight.
I think you might. Yeah.
Over Post Malone of all things.
And I'm not even there to hold you back from each other.
You know what? You and I. Here's what I need you to do. I'm going to give you a little homework assignment. You need to go. Yeah.
Fine.
Jeff.
Fine.
I need you to go listen to. If I give you 5 songs to listen to, will you listen to those 5 songs? And then you come back here, young man, and you try to tell me that Post Malone is not country.
Okay, if you're gonna die on this hill, Dan, for you, I'll listen.
You know what?
to
I will
Post
die on this
Malone.
hill. Actually, I will, and you might too, because you're gonna come back and you're gonna be. Do I have any pull on this radio station at all? I don't think I do. So
we're gone by the time people get here.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna give you 5 songs, and I'm reading the comments now because people are. Post Malone partied with Dolly. Did he? No, he did not, Christine. I'm going to have to start reading these things ahead of time. I can't trust you people. Post Malone did not party with Diddy.
KGB hit puberty over the break.
Why? Yeah. Well, because I listen to good music, apparently. Like 70s, 80s, those are some of my favorites. 90s has some good ones, too, for especially like metal and hard rock. 2000s has some good alt stuff in there. But if I listen like Aha, I like obviously some Queen I enjoy. And just I like the classics. So.
Okay. Very good. Whatever. But I'm going to give you 5 songs. And you got to listen to it by tomorrow so we can follow up on the bit tomorrow at 5:35.
Okay, fine.
All right?
Are you going to give it to me now or during the break?
No, I'll do it during the break.
Okay.
Because I got to pick my songs.
Okay.
But all you folks that say that Post Malone is, and by the way, I know that we're a talk station and not a country station, but we're in Nashville and we can talk music sometimes. We'll make it real quick next time, I promise. By the way, a couple of more, lot of updates coming up on the terror attack in New Orleans and also Las Vegas. Details straight ahead. News with Joan Jones is coming up. Joan, what you got?
Yeah, we got the parent connection between those 2 men who staged terror attacks in the 2 separate locations yesterday. Also, we will talk about Generation Beta and the first babies who were born in Nashville area hospitals yesterday. Those stories at 5:30 on Super Talk. Make that 6 o'clock at Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:58, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up, the latest on the terror attacks in New Orleans and also Las Vegas. And there's a lot, so stay tuned. News with Joan Jones coming up next, and then a lot more from yours truly. A lot of people talking about this Wendy Cummings. She was on CNN. I found my favorite cut by Wendy Cummings. Listen.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright.
Did you hear what she said? The Democrats couldn't hold the primary because they were busy holding a body upright. Obviously talking about Joe Biden.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off?
Go for it.
It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's. Oh, God. Andy just gave me a very scary look.
No!
There you go. Wendy Cummings. Speaking the truth, by the way, it is coming up on 6 o'clock. Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
Good morning, 6 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Investigators believe they have found a link between the two men who staged New Year's terror attacks. The Colorado resident suspected of detonating a Tesla Cybertruck in front of the Trump Las Vegas hotel, and the Texas man accused of driving a pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, both served at the same military base. A Denver television station is reporting that Colorado Springs resident Matthew Livelsberger and Shamsuddin Jabbar were both Army veterans. They also both are apparently used the Turo app to rent the vehicles used in their attacks. And both men are dead as well. Livelsberger reportedly rented a Cybertruck, packed it with firework mortars and gas cans, and drove it to Las Vegas, exploding it in front of the Trump International Hotel, killing himself and injuring 7 others. Shamsuddin Jabbar is suspected of plowing through a crowd of New Year's revelers in the French Quarter hours earlier, killing at least 15 and injuring dozens more in the attack that sent shockwaves through a famous New Year's destination in the morning of the scheduled college football playoff game. Well, those attacks have prompted one Metro Council member to call for a discussion about additional safety measures on Broadway. Metro Council member Jacob Kupin, whose district encompasses downtown Nashville, told News 2 that the attack has prompted him to work to ensure that all possible safety gaps are addressed. Kupin said he feels that Broadway is well monitored and protected through video surveillance and physical barriers, but he's looking for any holes in the system. He said he set up a meeting to plan for the new year with an eye toward safety downtown. Well, some new laws were ushered in with the new year, and one of them, you can now scan your hand to purchase alcohol. Now, this requires the store that you're buying from to have the technology in place, but users can upload a copy of your state ID if it's attached to a scan print of your hand. And if the store has that technology, you can now just scan your hand instead of handing over your state ID. And Nashville's hospitals have welcomed the first babies of 2025. They're also, by the way, considered the first babies of Generation Beta. TriStar Horizon Medical Center reporting the earliest birth. Willow was born at 12:30 in the morning on New Year's Day. She weighed in at 7 pounds 4 ounces. Shortly afterward came Mason, who was born at 12:36 at TriStar Summit Medical Center. Mason weighed in at 6 pounds 2 ounces. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Those accidents near the B&A airport on I-40 have been cleared up. As of right now in the downtown Nashville area, 40 has picked up just a little bit of steam, but everywhere else is looking wide open. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.606 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into your Thursday, January 2nd. Lots to talk about. And this is one of those mornings where the news is literally updating every few minutes. And so this has just come down from the Daily Mail in an exclusive. And they're talking about Shamsud Dim Jabbar. And he is the New Orleans terrorist. We have two. We have the one in Las Vegas, of course, and the one in New Orleans. And he is the one who drove a pickup truck into a crowd of people and killing 15, injuring many others as well. This has just come down from the Daily Mail. FBI makes a horrifying discovery in an Airbnb rented by New Orleans terrorist after he mowed down 15 people. So the theory, the story has been that he was in Houston and he drove to New Orleans and he did what he did. This guy, of course, as you've been listening or paying attention, you know that he was born in Texas and he is an American citizen, was an American citizen. Somewhere along the line, he was radicalized. And so that brings up a whole just massive conversation. But federal investigators believe that what he did was he rented a two-bedroom apartment or an Airbnb or something close to the New Orleans French Quarter, and that is where he prepared the IED explosives at that nearby rental property. Because remember, they found some explosives, and I guess they didn't go off, and so they were looking for a handful of other people. Then it turned out that those people were in the clear, but they don't believe that this guy acted alone. So that's part of the discussion. All right. So if not these few that they said helped him specifically, well, then who did work with Shamsud Din Jabbar? And where are these people? And are they getting ready to launch another attack? So that's number one. Number two, they found this guy's home, and he lived, I guess, outside of Houston. And he lived apparently in a trailer park, and it was really run down. I mean, it was just, if you see the photos of it, it's a rundown trailer park. And they talk about how he lived in a trailer park that had mostly Muslims in it. And the trailer itself is incredibly run down. And he actually also had sheep and geese and goats roaming the property, which is very bizarre for a trailer park. And he was in dire straits because the more they get to know this guy, Jabbar, the more they realize, and of course, we've been reporting that he left some video evidence and he talked about wanting to kill his family. And obviously, it doesn't sound like he ever got around to that because the police took him out. But he had had 2 divorces and he was in the military, I think about 10, 12 years. Then he got out of the military. He tried to work as a real estate agent. That clearly didn't work out. he had 2 divorces, and he was flat broke. And so I think that's part, and he had a couple of kids too. I think I saw some ages, but I don't remember what they are. We'll get into that as soon as I find that info. But his life had fallen apart, and he was clearly radicalized. And so the question is, and he lived very close to the mosque that a lot of the people in this trailer park probably went to. And the question is, where did he get radicalized? Number one, what was going on in this mosque? And number two, who was it that was working with him to carry out this attack? Now, his brother has been talking about this as well. And his brother, and I'm going to get into what his brother said, because he comes out swinging, and we're going to talk about that because there's a lot of things that his brother said to the New York Times that are really interesting indeed. Now, remember what Christopher Wray said back in 2023. I'm going to replay that. That's on me. Where his brother was talking about his radicalization and where that radicalization happened. He said he wasn't born this way. He said that his brother was not born a terrorist and that somewhere along the line he was radicalized. His brother has some thoughts on that, and we're going to get into that. But first, remember what Christopher Wray said about terrorism here in America in 2023.
The reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level. We assess that the actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration, the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate several years ago. In just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West.
So one of the things that people are saying is because, look, conservatives are saying, and I've got some great audio from Tom Homan, and we're all talking about the wide open border. And so, because to me, that is an obvious thing to say in response to a terrorist attack. Joe Biden and people on the left are saying, oh, see, he didn't come over the wide open border. He was born here in America. Okay, but as I stated in the 5 o'clock hour, let's also not forget that we've had ISIS terrorists and people connected with ISIS coming across our southern border. There was a big story a while ago, just a couple of months ago, where they reported that they had arrested 8 people. They all had connections with ISIS. And so where he got radicalized, nobody really does seem to know. My bet is on the mosque. My bet also is on people that may have come across the border and connected with this guy who was clearly having a lot of issues. This Shamsud Dim Jabbar. Now we're finding out, part of the news today, and again, I'm just going to throw a lot of news at you this morning. The guy from Las Vegas, the Las Vegas attack, where he drove a Tesla truck. Of course, Elon Musk, the guy who runs Tesla, that's his company, in front of Trump Tower and set it alight. He exploded the Tesla truck, killing himself and injuring other people as well. His name was Matthew Leivelsberger, and if you believe what's on social media, his family just hated Donald Trump. So clearly, this guy Leivelsberger, it would appear, also a guy who was in the military. Apparently, Jabbar and Leivelsberger, they served on the same base. That's what the Daily Mail is reporting. So now the question is, were these 2 attacks, were they coordinated? I find it hard to believe that this was all just random. I do. But I'm not seeing where Leivelsberger was radicalized by radical Islamic terrorism like Jabbar was, because he was flying an ISIS flag. Jabbar was flying an ISIS flag on the pickup truck as he ran over all of those people. And again, they say Jabbar lived within walking distance of the local mosque, his brother telling the New York Times that his brother converted to Islam at an early age and that radicalization was to blame for what happened. The younger Jabbar telling the newspaper that what his brother did, this is a quote, did not represent Islam. He said this is more some type of radicalization and not the religion. So that is a whole nother conversation that perhaps we'll have at another time. But his home, his trailer was completely, it's like, what do you call it? Just broken down. Ramshackle, I think you would call it. So here's the thing, is that he lived very close to that mosque. Apparently, online, the local imam in his mosque, and we're going to talk to Kathy Hinders about this here in just a few minutes, but the imam has told people in that mosque not to cooperate with the local authorities who are investigating this terror attack. I think that's important, and I'm going to repeat that. What they're saying is that in this mosque, the imam has told people that go to that mosque and work in that mosque not to cooperate with the investigation. And if the authorities and reporters come and ask questions about this guy, don't answer any questions. That is being alleged by some in the media. 6:15. Time to check the roads on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. .616 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. As far as your weather goes for today, got a high of 45 right now, 26 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Everybody's favorite border czar was on Fox News, and he was responding to the terror attacks.
Well, look, they've been emboldened. Look what this administration done. First of all, they relaxed the sanctions against Iran, gave them billions of more dollars so they can fund terrorism. Right? You know, you see marches down New York City, the streets of New York City, on the college campuses of people, carrying ISIS flags and asking for the death of America. And we allow this stuff to happen. This administration took a weak stance on this stuff. And the southern border, I'll mention again, where tomorrow, I guarantee you, this week they're going to continue to release thousands of people from the southern border, either through the CBP One app, or they're going to fly them in from Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Haiti through the CHMV program to our airports. Then Border Patrol is going to release thousands of more. Nothing's going to change tomorrow. This administration is not taking action against the criminal cartels, the terrorist organizations, or trying to secure our southern border. You can't have national security if you don't have border security.
I mean, obviously, Tom Homan is right. And so here's one of the main points that I want to make. I see people on social media. I see people on Fox News. I see some of you folks. Just wait till January 20th. This is all going to be over on January 20th. Friends, it's not going to be all over on January 20th. The damage has been done. Donald Trump, when he takes that oath of office, that doesn't mean that automatically we're going to be able to get out all these radical Islamic terrorists that have either come into this country or the people who are U.S. citizens who have been radicalized. It's like Trump just can't throw a bunch of, Trump dust all across America and all of a sudden all this stuff is going to go away. It's not. We have cells in this country and they're in hiding. And Tom Homan is right. As I was mentioning earlier, we've got those 8 people that were arrested with connections to ISIS. They came across our southern border, and the authorities said, oh, these folks are fine. Just let them right on through. They were basically vetted, but they didn't find that they had connections to ISIS. And so there's no telling how many of these people have come across our southern border that are either planning an attack or they're radicalizing people like this guy, Shamsud Dim Jabbar. So I would say to Joe Biden, who part of what he said was, well, this guy wasn't a foreigner. He was born on American soil. Yes, but how did the radicalization happen? Could have happened with some of these folks that came across the border when you had the border wide open. I would say to Joe Biden. And so these 2 guys that carried out these attacks in New Orleans and Las Vegas, they are American citizens. The reality is that bad guys and a terrorist mentality have come into our country. It was already here before Joe Biden, but what Joe Biden did with the wide open borders is he literally threw gasoline on the fire. And now it is everywhere. And Donald Trump and Tom Homan, they do have their work cut out for them.
If you cross the border illegally, you're going to be detained, either that or removed. The law is clear. If you enter this country without proper documentation, you shall be detained. That's what the statute says. You shall be detained. Not maybe, not thinking about it, let's release you. You shall be detained, and that's what the Trump administration will do. President Trump is committed to that. We're going to start the biggest deportation operation ever seen. Right out of the gate, we're going to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. That's why I get angry when I see governors and mayors saying they're going to try to prevent this from happening. Especially after today. What governor and mayor wants to stand in the way of removing public safety threats from their community?
All right, it is 6:21 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Okay, coming up next, what do we know about, right before the news, what do we know about Matthew Leibelsberger, the guy who was suspected in the terrorist attack in Las Vegas? All that and a whole lot more straight ahead. Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news at 6:30?
Well, Dan, we do know that ISIS has not taken responsibility for the New Orleans attack. And also, tragedy strikes in Hawaii on New Year's Eve as well. We've got those stories coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. It's 6:22. Dan Mandis here. My company for foundation repair and concrete leveling is USS, United Structural Systems. They fixed my foundation, and they can help you as well with yours. They're awesome, easy to work with, and above all, United Structural Systems, they are competent and reasonable. So if you notice doors and windows that are sticking, uneven floors, maybe gaps between the trim and ceiling, these are all signs that you might have a possible foundation issue. And nobody does it better than my friends at USS. They've been serving Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they've helped thousands of satisfied homeowners with great work and communication. They're going to give you a free inspection and detailed estimate before you make a decision. Communication is always key in these kinds of situations. And by the way, you're not going to pay a dime until the work is done and you're a satisfied customer. USS for all your foundation, concrete leveling, and waterproofing needs. Call them, tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855, online, USSTN.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
626, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Kathy Henners, our top cop. She's going to join us at 6:36 following the news right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So a few things. Number one, some people are saying stop saying their name, stop giving them notoriety. Totally get that. I totally get that. But what else am I supposed to do? Should I just refer to them as New Orleans and Las Vegas? Because I'm reporting on the news. But I listen, I totally get it. I totally understand. To me, the name of the guy from New Orleans, his name is really important, Shamsud Dim Jabbar, because when we talk to Kathy Henners, we're going to dissect his name because his name actually has some significance. So we're going to get to that and a whole lot more. Heather, by the way, wants to know, because we were telling you about how both of these guys, New Orleans and Las Vegas, they served at the same base. I don't know if they served at the same base at the same time. I was trying to find that out as well, and maybe if somebody knows, you can let me know on the super text line. But the guy who rented the Tesla truck, and drove it in front of Trump Tower in Las Vegas and exploded it. He rented it. They both rented the vehicles from this Turo app. And I'd never actually heard of Turo, but we don't know a whole heck of a lot yet regarding Leibelsberger, the guy from Las Vegas. Don't know a lot about him just yet, but I am telling you that the news is coming in fast and furious this morning. So it's going to be just one of those days where the news is just constantly flowing. I might hit on something in one segment and then not go back to it again. By the way, Chad Wolf is, of course, he used to be from the Trump administration first time around, and he is a security official. He talks about how not much has changed on the southern border, and this goes back to what I've been saying all morning long, which is the border is still wide open. And Trump and Tom Homan, they're not going to be able to come in on day one and all of this stuff is going to go away. Here's part of what he had to say.
Security measures. Their posture along that southern border remains the same. They do not change course, knowing that threats continue to come across that border each and every day. And while the New Orleans perpetrator may have been a United States citizen, we don't know what kind of help he had. They're still looking for other suspects, whether they came across the border or into the country illegally in some manner is still yet to be determined. So I think all of this is very concerning because the American people, I don't think, are being told the truth by their federal government of we've got a heightened security environment, threat environment, and we're just not taking the security precautions that we need to be.
Oh, did you hear what Senator Kennedy said? He threw it down. I'll find that audio coming up next. As I said, there's a lot of angles to this story. But Kennedy, basically, he came out and he said that he is demanding transparency of the FBI. And I think he said something basically to the effect of, I don't trust the FBI to be transparent. And if I find them to that they're not being transparent, he said, I'm going to go after them big time. So we'll continue to follow that part of the story as well. Remember, Kathy Henners is coming up next. News with Joe and Jones now on WTN.
Good morning, 6:30 now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The man who intentionally drove his pickup truck into a crowd of revelers on Bourbon Street in New Orleans early on New Year's Day, killing at least 15, injuring dozens of others, flew a black ISIS flag from the truck's rear bumper. And that attack is being investigated as an act of terrorism by the FBI, despite first saying that it is not being investigated as a terror incident. The man driving the vehicle has been identified as 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. citizen from Texas. CBS News reports that at this point, neither ISIS nor any other foreign terror organization has claimed responsibility for the attack. Now, the man then exited his car after ramming the people on the street. He opened fire on officers, and he died after an exchange of gunfire with 3 of those responding officers. Now, weapons and 2 potential improvised explosive devices were found inside the truck. At least 1 other IED was found in the French Quarter. It was detonated by law enforcement. The number of IEDs left behind is a large part of why the FBI believes that man may have had an accomplice. Investigators are combing through videos still to see if there were accomplices involved in placing those devices. In Hawaii, a New Year's Eve fireworks display ended in a Honolulu neighborhood, killing at least 3 people and critically injuring 20 others. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said that several children under the age of 10 were among those severely injured. Now, reports say that the fireworks had been tied together and the force of the first explosion rocketed the fireworks into stacks of other fireworks, creating the force of a bomb. Fireworks in Hawaii are restricted. Well, he's doing it again. President-elect Trump is holding a rally the day before the inauguration, January 19th. It'll happen at Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. That is the home of the Washington Wizards basketball team and the Capitals hockey team. That venue can hold about 20,000 people. He's calling it a Make America Great Again victory rally. President Trump will be sworn into his second term the next day right there in Washington, D.C. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are coming up. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 6:33 on Nashville's Morning News. Dan Mandis here talking about my friends at the Glock store. Listen, when I go train, and I really plan to go more often here in 2025, I head down to the Glock store and the Shoot270.com indoor ranges, where they have private shooting rooms and personal instructors, not in multiple lanes and some stranger shooting next to you. No. Now, here's an exciting 2025 new year, new deal just for you all month long here in January. You book a shooting session at Shoot270.com and you'll get to shoot, listen to this, a full auto H&K suppressed MP5 just for mentioning my name. Now, I'm here to tell you that is an incredible gun. So if you want that experience, you go online, you mention my name, you get to shoot that full auto H&K suppressed MP5 just for mentioning my name, Dan Mandis. That, by the way, is a $50 value just for saying I heard it on Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis. And by the way, just a little behind the scenes. Even if you listen to Chris and Matt, who also go to the Glock store, make sure that you mention my name because we actually have a little bet going on as to who's going to get the most name drops, if you will. So name drop my name, Dan Mandis, Shoot270.com. Check him out, the Glock store, Shoot270.com.
We got a crash with the off-ramp right shoulder blocked on I-65, the North Loop southbound, the off-ramp to eastbound I-40 west, exit 84AB. Everywhere else looks pretty good. We do have a little bit of steam going into the downtown Nashville area from 24 on to 40, but 65 looks pretty good. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
637, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So many questions, so little answers so far. The question is, will we get those answers? Now, Kathy Hinter's going to be joining us in a second. I want to play a couple of real quick audio bites, then get Kathy's perspective. Bizarrely, as the New Orleans terror attack continued to unfold, the investigation unfold, bizarrely, the FBI initially said that this was not a terror attack, which I thought was very strange.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is they're improvised explosive devices.
I don't really get that because they literally knew that there was an ISIS flag that was on the dude's truck. So why it is that she came out and she said that it was not a terrorist attack, I don't really know. But then Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana, he was part of another press conference, and he is demanding transparency. Now, I think that most of us here on WTN, if you know anything about me, you know anything about what the FBI and the intelligence agencies have been up to over the last couple of years, you know that they have been far from transparent. You also know that their priorities have been way mixed up. And in my opinion, there's a lot of folks at the FBI that they're not necessarily focused on combating radical Islamic terrorism. And what they're really focused on and what they have been focused on, things like DEI and also, of course, January 6th. And neither of those two things can keep us safe. And so John Kennedy, he was part of the Senator Kennedy, he was part of this press conference, and he had a warning for the FBI.
Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people. Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. Now, I don't want you to tell us yet anything that's going to interfere with your investigation. And there are things that I've been told that I think are true that I'm not sharing with you today because it could interfere with their investigation. But after we get to the bottom of this, they need to tell the American people the truth, and the people in New Orleans the truth, and the people of America the truth. I think the mayor and the governor are very wise to postpone this ball game for 24 hours. There's just too much stuff we don't know. And it's just not worth it. But I guess my final point is, I will promise you this: I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible, or I will raise fresh hell. And I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas.
So that is Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana, and we've got Kathy Hinters on the line. 20 years as a police officer in New York, and of course, if you know Kathy's work at dailyrollcall.com, she is very well versed on radical Islamic terrorism, radicalization as well. Kathy, as always, appreciate you joining us. And let me just ask you a couple of real quick questions. I know we probably don't want to dwell on this, but it was stunning to me that that this Jabbar was able to get that pickup truck around the police cars and maneuver around it so that he could get down that road and run over all of those people. And I guess the question is, when you looked at that, were you surprised at the fact that this street clearly wasn't safe?
I wasn't. I mean, they had a police car, and that's not unusual to have police cars used as barriers. But I believe he probably took some rides around there previously to see what the situation was going to be. Obviously, those barriers had been down for a period of time because they were malfunctioning. But you know what? Those barriers are made of steel. They probably would have stopped him. But he was determined, and anybody who's determined is going to follow through. So going up on the sidewalk was the next easiest thing for him to do. And so it doesn't surprise me that he was able to do that. If he was smart, he would have been to that area. He picked that area for a reason, so that's why I believe he had been there prior to doing this. So the barrier is a big issue, but it is what it is. They were taken down for a reason, but it still was a soft target. I mean, we can't stop. He had IED on him, so if he was going to kill people, he would have gotten out of the truck and blown himself up in front of massive amount of people. So he was determined, and killers will do what they have to do to kill.
All right, let's talk about how he became radicalized. So I don't think we know exactly how he became radicalized. Apparently he was part of this mosque, and I don't know if you saw in the news today, Kathy, but folks within that mosque, some are reporting that the people from the mosque are being told not to speak to the media, perhaps not to cooperate with the investigation. So, I mean, I don't know. Does that come as a surprise? It does not come as a surprise to me. I don't know anything about this mosque, but I know that he lived in this trailer park that was mostly Muslim immigrants, and he was born in America. He was in the military for years. He was a real estate agent. He actually put out a video talking about how he could do great things if you list your home with him and so forth. And so somewhere along the line, he became radicalized.
Well, he was a convert. We know that he grew up Christian, according to his brother. So this is where converts tend to be a little bit different than people who are born into the religion of Islam. The mosque itself is called Masjid Bilal. What's interesting about this, and many people might not get this connection, but it's owned and run by the Islamic Society of Greater Houston. They are owned by what's called the North American Islamic Trust, which is the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, people hear the word the Muslim Brotherhood all the time. They have been designated a terrorist organization in most Middle Eastern countries. The United States has not designated them for a lot of different reasons yet. I believe that Trump will probably wish to do that, which he needs to do, and that will get rid of a lot of these organizations, even Hamas that is here in the United States. So there is that connection. I am not surprised. We're trying to find a connection between one of our imams that we know is radical, Yasser Qadi out of Memphis. He is in Texas. I'm looking to find out now if he had anything to do with this particular mosque. The radicalization part, without getting into the doctrine, we look back at what ISIS believes. ISIS believes that the global caliphate must return. That is where Islam will dominate, and Sharia law, which is classic Islamic law, will be dominant within all countries. If you start looking at what's happening over in Europe, especially Germany, even Britain, what's happening there now obviously is starting to happen here, and it's just the influx and the growth of Muslims that are, and I can't say radical because the true Islam is radical. I mean, he wasn't radicalized by ISIS. He was radicalized by Islam and what he learned in that mosque. And that's the difference. I think people aren't paying attention to things that we should be paying attention to, like who's teaching him. And it goes the same with the bomb. Who taught him how to make that bomb? And that's where they'll find out who actually he's associated with. He wasn't a true bomb maker. He had to learn from a bomb maker, and there's signatures to those bombs. So that will reveal who he's related to and who he learned from. But there's so many other things when you start talking about the flag and everything. Most of those flags contain what's called the Shahada. The Shahada is the first pillar of Islam. It is, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the prophet. That's what they truly believe. So that is what is displayed on Al-Qaeda's flag, on the ISIS flag, and on most of their flags. It'll have, if not the whole thing, there is no God but Allah. That is what they believe. So that's the part that, again, starts to radicalize. And when he probably started attending this mosque, he was kind of in financial trouble. He had gone through divorces, and the promise is to be a good Muslim, you will obtain paradise. And that begins to be the goal and the pressure that they face. He might have also been chastised for being an American soldier. That is a big no-no to a lot of these mosques. A lot of these imams will tell them, you're not supposed to follow any other law but, Sharia law or Allah's law. And so fighting against what he did, fight against Middle Easterners and Muslims, is against Sharia law. So he might have been chastised, he might have been ostracized, but whatever it was that led him to do this obviously came from the mosque. I think the mosque is going to be the key, actually.
So, all right, Kathy, hold on one sec. I got to jump the traffic. Got a couple more questions for you. Kathy Hender's joining us on Nashville's Morning News. It is 6:46. Time to check the roads on WTN. As far as your weather today, high of 45, and right now cold and 26. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Kathy Hender's joining us. All right, so Kathy, a couple of things. Obviously, this guy had a lot of problems, the New Orleans attacker. And I think part of what I think is going on here is you and I have spoken before about radicalization, rapid radicalization. 4 years ago, as early as 4 years ago, this guy was, trying to sell real estate, and he had what seems to me like a military career that I don't know if he was discharged appropriately or if something happened. I don't know about his military career, but how worried are you that there's a whole bunch of these guys that are out there and they've been radicalized one way or another? You and I have spoken about before about the wide open southern border. That's where everybody is going. And one of the things that some are saying, Kathy, is that, well, don't forget that this guy was born here in America. He did not come across the wide open border, so you conservatives need to shut up about that. Well, the reality is that we know that people that are connected or affiliated with ISIS have come across our southern border. And so is there a possibility that those folks that came across our border are finding people that sort of are disengaged and they're helping in this radicalization?
That's exactly right. But also in addition to that, and where they need to shut up, is when the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan occurred back in 2021, there were hundreds that came into this country that were not vetted. 600 of those were deemed to go to Nashville, Tennessee. Go figure that. And we don't know that they were properly vetted at all. One report says they weren't, and then you have other reports that say they were. The vetting process takes a long time. You and I have gone over that before a few years ago. The vetting process is not just something that takes a day or a week. It can take a couple of years for these people to get properly vetted, especially if they're from countries that don't have, fingerprints and birth certificates and things like that. But we do know that 600 Afghanis landed and were supposed to come into Nashville. Whether or not they've stayed in Nashville, whether or not their ideology is in line with, some of the mosques, we don't know that. But, here they are. They're in our state. They're in our country. So, and I would say, without putting an official number, the amount of them that have come into the country, I would say there's thousands. And I would say as far as ISIS, there are known cells in every state, whether it's ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, any of these. They're in every state, and we've known that. And I think Christopher Wray maybe is starting to tell the truth a little bit about, this threat has escalated. This threat is going to continue to escalate. So I think we need to start paying attention to more of the doctrines of which these guys are learning from, and stop worrying about, offending people and saying, well, it's a religion. It's a political way of life. It's a true way of life. And if they're following the Prophet Muhammad, you get it. And so without, getting further into that,
right.
You mentioned about getting into his name. And what I thought was really interesting, when you break down his name, the last name, Jamar, means great or mighty. and the desire for dominance and power. I think that kind of sums it up for his last name.
Yeah. Well, hey, Kathy, hold on. I've got one more segment here right before the news, if you'll hold on for a second, because one of the things that I think there's a lot of people that are making a mistake right now, and that is they're saying, just wait till January 20th and all this goes away. No, it's not. And we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. And coming up, Joan Jones in the news. And Joan, what do we have coming up?
Dan, the mosque where the New Orleans ramming suspect worshipped is telling its members to stay quiet. Also, why Chief Justice John Roberts is concerned about the safety of some justices. Those stories coming up at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
6:57, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Kathy Henners, our top cop, joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. All right, so Kathy, I think there's this inaccurate perception that once Donald Trump gets into office, this is all going to go away. No, they're here, and it's going to be really hard to stop future attacks. I mean, clearly one of the things that we need to do is, in my opinion, get Kash Patel in there as the head of the FBI and really start focusing on what needs to be focused on. Oh, hold on. Yeah, go ahead, Kathy. Go ahead.
They've got to get rid of the agents and things like the woman that said that this wasn't a terrorist attack. We have to define the enemy, and that's okay too. We look at Israel, and they clearly define the enemies. But what I think is really kind of interesting too is last month, December 2024, the Biden administration released a report called the National Strategy on Countering Islamophobia and Arab Hate. And it's 67 pages of what they want Congress to do for the Muslims in America. And so I thought that was kind of interesting that came out the month before this happened, because I'm sure that's, the fear that Islamophobia is going to take over and whatever. But, like I say, we have to understand our enemies. And when you see that we've allowed Hamas to actually parade around and protest in our cities, burning flags and things like that, that's a problem. And I think Trump will be able to stop that. But, man, it's so deep, deeply embedded in America right now that, if you think January 20th is the answer, it's not. We've got a long way to go.
Kathy Henners, dailyrollcall.com. Always appreciate having you on, and we'll have you on again soon. 6:59 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Again, find out more about Kathy. dailyrollcall.com. You can find out more about me on X and also Facebook at Dan Mandis Show. The super text line is open, getting a lot of feedback today. Very much appreciated. 615-737-9986. News with Joan Jones is coming up. Also coming up, should Liz Cheney be investigated? Yes. And a lot of people agree with me. Details straight ahead on WTN.
Good morning. It's 7 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The mosque where New Orleans truck ramming suspect Shamsuddin Jabbar allegedly attended has reportedly warned its members not to interact with any media and to refuse to answer any questions from the FBI. A notice posted on social media tells members to direct any questions to the advocacy group CARE. That stands for the Council on American Islamic Relations and the Islamic Society of Greater Houston. The note goes on to say, quote, "It is crucial that we stay united at this time as we condemn these terrible acts. Please stay safe." Now, Jabbar admitted in videos that he made before the attack that he had joined ISIS, and President Biden confirmed that Jabbar was inspired by the Islamic group. Jabbar also served in the U.S. Army from 2007 to 2020. NBC News is reporting that investigators have searched the Airbnb where Jabbar stayed near New Orleans before the attack. They say it was inside that rental home that Jabbar assembled the IEDs that were found around the scene of the truck ramming. Other news of the day, Chief Justice John Roberts has blasted what he called illegitimate activity aimed at undermining the independence of the judiciary. In his annual end-of-the-year report, Roberts said some recent actions have crossed the line, saying disinformation and threats to defy court judgments are wholly unacceptable. Now, Roberts didn't specify examples of conduct that concerns him, but protest outside conservative justices' homes after Roe v. Wade was overturned is one example of concerning conduct from those on the left. In one case, a man was charged with attempted murder after being arrested outside the home of Justice Brett Kavanaugh, armed with a handgun. The media has also hyper-focused its attention on conservative Justice Clarence Thomas and what it alleges are lapses in his ethics. Puerto Rico started out the new year in the dark. A massive blackout hit nearly all electrical customers across Puerto Rico yesterday, leaving more than 1.2 million customers with no electricity. Power was restored to almost everybody by late afternoon. The company that runs the island's power system said the grid there is fragile and it's facing a decision to implement rotating temporary outages to manage the island's power problems. Well, stock futures running higher today with the hopes that the market can regain the momentum that propelled the S&P 500 to log 2 straight years of annual gains above 20%. The holiday shortened week has been light on economic data, but we will get a look today at weekly jobless claims. That'll offer a read on how the labor market is faring. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
We got a crash reported by police on I-65 southbound. That's out Old Hickory Boulevard, exit 92. Looking at the downtown Nashville area, it's starting to pick up a little bit. It's starting to hit that rush hour traffic, almost there. 24 on a 40 is the most busiest. 65 north going to downtown, looking pretty good. 65 south going to downtown Nashville, though, is picking up some steam as well. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
.706, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in along with Joan Jones, Jeff Malinoff producing this morning. And, of course, we're talking about the 2 terror attacks that happened, one in New Orleans and one in Las Vegas. And, again, just as I told you this morning, the news is just going to keep coming. And so I'm just going to keep spitting it out at you. First of all, real quick, just a brief montage of some of what we already know from the attack in New Orleans.
The subject has been identified as 42-year-old Shamsud Dim Jabbar, a U.S.-born citizen from Texas. An ISIS flag was located on the trailer hitch of the vehicle, and the FBI is working to determine the subject's potential associations and affiliations with terrorist organizations. We are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible.
So 15 dead, dozens injured. He was shot and killed by police. He got out of the vehicle, the truck, and he started firing upon folks, and the police were able to take him out. He did have an ISIS flag. If you're just joining us and you've missed the previous 2 hours, he did have an ISIS flag hooked onto the back of his truck. He was able to maneuver his truck around the vehicle barriers onto the sidewalk and ram through the massive crowd. Happened about, 3 o'clock in the morning there, local time. And the latest is that the FBI says that the earlier reports of 3 men and a woman placing explosives around New Orleans were false. However, part of what they're saying is that they don't know who helped this guy, but they believe that he did have some help. And so now they're trying to figure out, okay, if not these 4 people, well, then who? President Biden, of course, one of the things that he did point out, and everybody is pointing this out, is that he was inspired by ISIS.
Indicating that he's inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he's inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
Well, as Kathy Hinters and I pointed out, I mean, a lot of people are saying, and I say too, he was inspired by ISIS. Reality is that he was inspired by radical Islamic terrorism. That's what he was inspired by. Now, remember this story. We've been talking about this off and on this morning, about the 8 suspected terrorists with ties to ISIS that were arrested in Philadelphia, New York City, Los Angeles as well, in that FBI sting operation. These guys were from Tajikistan, the nationals there with ties to ISIS. They were arrested 3 major cities by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in conjunction with the FBI, a joint terrorism task force, according to federal sources. Now, they crossed the U.S. border illegally. Now, and I'm going to keep harping on this, friends. Part of what Biden is going to say, part of what the people on the left are going to say is, well, this didn't have anything to do with Joe Biden's wide open border. So you conservatives, you Trump conservatives, you can't say that this involved Biden's wide open border because the terrorist here in New Orleans, Jabbar, he was born in Texas. He was born in Texas and he was in the military. Yes, but you don't know how he became radicalized because, as far as we know, some people came across our southern border and helped to radicalize him. We don't know. His radicalization also could have happened in the mosque, and he lived within walking distance of the mosque. The same mosque, by the way, that is telling people who go to that mosque and work at the mosque, don't cooperate with the investigation, don't ask any questions. So that's a problem, obviously. We don't know where the radicalization happened, but we know that he was radicalized. And we know the fact that he was a radical Islamic terrorist because he was flying that ISIS flag. Fox News, going back to these 8 Tajikistan nationals, Fox News says the suspects were allowed into the U.S. pending asylum after being fully vetted. It wasn't until they were released that authorities flagged them for having ties to ISIS. And so we don't know how this guy got radicalized. What we do know is that the FBI said something really bizarre.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices.
So I don't know where I don't know who that person was with the FBI, but clearly just a very bizarre statement to make. But the bottom line on all of this is that there's a lot more of this, I'm sorry to say. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news on this January 2nd, this Thursday, but we're not at the beginning and we're not at the end. We're somewhere in the middle. But Joe Biden's wide open border has perpetuated bad guys coming across our southern border. And a lot of people talking about how, and this is true, the FBI has been so focused on January 6th, when the reality is that most of those people from January 6th, misdemeanors, and quite frankly, something that happened a long time ago. But that's what the FBI has been focused on. have they taken their eye off the ball of keeping the American people safe? By the way, some people are also pointing out, I've had a few this morning that are saying, well, you've got 15 people dead in New Orleans, but do you know how many people were shot and killed in Chicago last month, right? You always hear that. And I'm going to tell you my opinion on that, because it always seems like there's people out there, and not all of you are doing this, but there's people that try to sort of sanitize what happened in New Orleans and what happened in Las Vegas by pointing out, well, they didn't come across the border. Okay. But I just explained that one. And another one. Well, do you know how many people were shot and killed in Chicago? Do you know how many people were shot and killed in New York? Whatever. Well, here's the deal. In a lot of those places, there's bad guys shooting at bad guys. And I do understand that occasionally innocent people do get caught in the crossfire because these idiots shoot their guns incorrectly. They shoot it sideways. And I'm sorry, but I'm not losing any sleep over gangbangers shooting and killing each other. I'm sorry, but I don't. If they want to kill each other, knock themselves out, that's less hassle for the police. And it really is terrible when innocent people get shot in the crossfire. But I do believe there is a difference between gangbangers killing each other and a radical Islamic terrorist who mows down a bunch of innocent people, including children, when they're out celebrating New Year's Eve. And this isn't going to go away anytime soon. We've had warning of this for a long time.
The reality is that the terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole nother level. We assess that the actions of Hamas and its allies will serve as an inspiration, the likes of which we haven't seen since ISIS launched its so-called caliphate several years ago. In just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West.
I mean, listen, can we all just be honest that there are certain things that have been normalized here in America, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. But there have been some things that have been normalized here in America. Number one, anti-Semitism has absolutely been normalized here in America by the left. What have we seen on college campuses? Anti-Semitism. Democrats had nothing to say, by and large. Many Democrats had nothing to say about anti-Semitism. We also know what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden emboldened Iran to continue to pay for terrorism across the world by basically ignoring the sanctions that Donald Trump placed on Iran. So Biden lifts up the sanctions, ignores the sanctions. Iran then is able to sell all of that oil to China, makes billions of dollars. Then Iran funds Hamas so that they can go and attack Israel. We all know that story. And then Israel goes after Hamas. And then that leads to all of the protests here in America. And so we don't know if that's the event that triggered this guy Jabbar, where Israel is going into Gaza to try and get these the Hamas terrorists, but something triggered him. And let's be honest, terrorism sadly is alive and well across the world. And a big reason for that is because Joe Biden is allowing Iran to sell oil and pay them money for hostages. And this has been an ongoing conversation for like 4 years. So we don't exactly know what triggered this guy, and we don't know if we ever will know. We do know that he was going through a lot of personal problems. Details straight ahead, 7:15, time to check the roads. Thank you very much. As far as your weather today, it's going to be mostly clear. Highs around 45 right now, 26 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, that voice I played earlier was Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, talking about the events that are inspiring terrorism. And there's been a lot, whether it is what's going on in the Middle East with Israel and Hamas, whether it's Iran and their funding through the Biden administration so that they can continue to do what they're doing, or if it's all of the issues going on here in America with the protests on college campuses and elsewhere in a lot of these, quite frankly, Democrat-run cities, and nobody, quite frankly, seems to want to put a stop to it. I do understand that, yes, they do have their freedom of speech. This is from Fox News. By the way, the headline was, FBI Director, Homeland Security Secretary refuse to publicly testify before the Senate committee talking about terrorism. Remember that whole thing? It was horrific. There was an end of year, this was only a couple weeks ago, an end of year public hearing in front of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. And Alejandro, the border is secure, Mayorkas, and Christopher Wray, they refused to show up in front of the Senate Homeland Security Committee hearing, talking about the dangers and the threats to America. And so that looks really bad, considering the fact that now we've just been hit with not one, but two terror attacks, one in New Orleans and one in Las Vegas. Committee Chairman Gary Peters said Mayorkas and Wray's refusal to appear is a shocking departure from the 15-year tradition of holding the annual hearing on worldwide threats. In a statement to Fox News Digital, the FBI argued that Christopher Wray and other officials have already testified extensively in public about threats facing the U.S. and that the Bureau has repeatedly demonstrated our commitment to responding to congressional oversight and being transparent with the American people. Have they been transparent? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't believe that they've been transparent, and Senator John Kennedy doesn't believe that they've been transparent either.
Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people. Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. Now, I don't want you to tell us yet anything that's going to interfere with your investigation. And there are things that I've been told that I think are true that I'm not sharing with you today because it could interfere with their investigation. But after we get to the bottom of this, they need to tell the American people the truth, and the people in New Orleans the truth, and the people of America the truth. I think the mayor and the governor are very wise to postpone this ball game for 24 hours. There's just too much stuff we don't know, and it's just not worth it. But I guess my final point is, I will promise you this. I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible. Or I will raise fresh hell. And I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas.
So that is Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana. And clearly he has an opinion on whether or not the FBI has been telling us everything that we need to know. I think that's part of everyone's frustration with the FBI over the last 4 years. It is 7:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Got a lot more straight ahead. Joan Jones, what's happening at 7:30?
Dan, Louisiana's top lawyer is threatening the death penalty as the investigation into the Bourbon Street terror attack continues. Also, what the New York Post is demanding now that Joe Biden's mental decline has been embraced by journalists. Those stories at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Is it like start actually being journalists? Is that what they're...
Well, it gets worse.
Okay, can't wait to hear it. Thank you, Joan. 7:21, Nashville's Morning News. My friends at DT McCall's, as you know, they've been in the middle of this incredible special going on right now. Gun safes are sales tax free at DT McCall's, so check them out. It is, of course, still hunting season, so be sure that you're keeping your gun safe when you're not in the tree stand with a Liberty gun safe from DT McCall's. They are the largest Liberty safe dealer here in the state of Tennessee. You know why? We talk about this all the time. Free delivery and free setup. Other places, they're going to charge you at least $500 for delivery and setup in bigger models, $300 for smaller models. But at DT McCall & Sons, they deliver every safe for free every time, period. and no setup charge either. So find them online. It's dtmccalls.com for locations and information. 5 locations across Middle Tennessee. Always tell them Dan told you to reach out. Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, and Franklin. Always online, dtmccalls.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News. The Wall Street Journal reported a while ago that people are feeling stress, anxiety, and depression because of this election. If that's you, talk to my guy, Dr. Christopher Van Schenk. He is a psychiatrist out in Nolensville. Now, he can help you with not only depression, if you're feeling it because of politics or whatever, but he can also help you with alcoholism, drug abuse as well. Go to his website, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. He's got a long list of conditions that he can help you with, either in person or at telehealth. Bottom line is, he wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get the help that you need. He can help your kids as well. Check him out online. Again, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. The number's below. Thanks for listening, and good luck. $7:25, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Yeah, I know. I'm spitting all kinds of news at you folks, and listen, it's breaking as we speak. And so between Joan and I and KGB, who is producing this morning, we're trying to keep you updated. A couple of other things going on is that, and by the way, at 7:35, we're going to go down. They used to call it a rabbit hole. Now I guess they call it a wormhole. Is that what they do? Malinoff, KGB?
No, it's still a rabbit hole.
It's still a rabbit hole because
Yeah.
somebody said I'm going to go down a wormhole, whatever it is. Coming up at 7:35, we're noticing a lot of things, a lot of similarities between these two terrorists and others in the news that I know that you folks have heard about. I'm going to unravel it all coming up at 7:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN and Nashville's Morning News. When you talk about what this guy, Jabbar, just focusing on New Orleans right now, because that's where a lot of the casualties and the carnage is. Just a few things, because we're talking about radicalization earlier. Make sure we podcast that interview that I did with Kathy Henners. But everybody wants to know why. Well, there's evil in this world. That's why. That's number one. Number two, people do end up getting radicalized, radical Islamic terrorism. I've been speaking about that ad nauseum this morning. But the other part of that is that his life was falling apart. His life, the New Orleans terrorist Jabbar, his life was falling apart. He, at one point, of course, as you know, he was in the military. Then he tried to sell real estate, and that obviously didn't go well. 4 years ago, he had put out a video, and he was talking about how he would get the sale done, and he would be great to sell your house, and so on and so forth. And that video made the rounds. But somewhere along the line, he lost a lot of his money. He ended up living in a trashy trailer park, and he had, I don't know, sheep and goats and chickens in his yard. And this trashy trailer park, you know, it had mostly Muslims living in it, Muslim immigrants, they say, that were living in this trailer park, and it was minutes from a mosque and within walking distance of said mosque. And he had threatened to kill his family. He had posted a couple of videos. In the videos, he had threatened to kill his family. He had been divorced twice, and he was obviously, clearly not doing well. And so perhaps when he was at his most vulnerable, that's when perhaps the radicalization happened. I don't know. I guarantee you right now they're trying to comb through all of his social media. They're trying to get into whatever phone they found. They're trying to figure out who his accomplices were and how that radicalization happened so that they can prevent it from happening again. Guy said on the super text line, I've gone away from it now, but he said something. He said, Dan, whatever you do, don't be like the fake news media and say that all of this is going to stop on January 20th. Well, obviously, he just tuned in because I think within the first 3 minutes of today's broadcast, and I've been talking about this all morning long, if you think that January 20th is going to be some sort of a date where all of this goes away, trust me when I say, friends, sadly, it's not. Because they're here, and it's happening, and we can deport or try to deport as many people as we possibly can. But evil has taken its root here in America. And Joe Biden, if that sort of fire was really beginning to burn, he threw gasoline on that fire over the last 4 years. Make no mistake, Joe Biden is partly responsible for what's going to happen in this country because of all of the terrorism and all of the crime that we have seen and will see because of those wide open borders. Make no mistake. And it's up to Donald Trump and Tom Homan and Kash Patel, if he ends up getting confirmed, it is up to them, Trump and all the president's men, to try to fix what clearly Joe Biden broke. 615-737-9986. The chat line is open, and we'll return next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 7:30 now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Louisiana's top lawyer is vowing an eye for an eye for the Bourbon Street New Year's attacker. Liz Morrell warns in a social media post that Louisiana does have the death penalty and it will be carried out. She tells Fox News there is evidence that multiple individuals are involved in this attack. Law enforcement remains stationed around the French Quarter and the Superdome as well this morning. Now, the Sugar Bowl is still scheduled to be played there today. Merrill, by the way, believes that the Sugar Bowl should be postponed further, saying more suspects may still be at large. Well, the New York Post has published an editorial demanding that the journalist who helped the White House cover up President Biden's mental decline should be held responsible for misleading the public. Despite polls showing the majority of Americans felt Biden was too mentally compromised to serve a second term, many journalists treated questions about Biden's health like a right-wing conspiracy, it said. Now, that editorial says, quote, "No one who perpetrated, concealed, or ignored this grotesque scandal should ever live it down." Air travel demand continued to surge into 2024, and it was led by a bounce back in international trips. Well, that put pressure on airlines to add more flights, and they also scrambled to increase premium seating. But did they do better at flying on time? Well, the best in the world was Aeromexico, if you can believe it, coming in on time 86.7% of the time. In the U.S., Delta did the best, coming in on time 83.4% of the time. United was next with just over 80%, and Alaska Airlines under 80%. They rounded out the top three here in the U.S. That's the latest news. We've got traffic and weather still to come here. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 7:32 on Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Dan Mandis here, talking about my friends at the Glock store. Now, this is where I go to train. I'm going to go more in 2025. I love the Glock store. I head down to the Glock store often enough at the Shoot 270 indoor ranges. Find out more about these incredible ranges at shoot270.com. Again, they are indoor ranges where they have private shooting rooms and personal instructors, not multiple lanes and some stranger shooting next to you. Self-defense and protecting your family is so important these days, obviously. Now, here's an exciting 2025 new year for you. It's a great deal just for you as we head into 2025. Now, all month long, book a shooting session at shoot270.com, and you're going to get to shoot. Listen to this, because I did this. A full auto H&K suppressed MP5. Just by mentioning my name. That's a $50 value, but it is an experience that you'll never forget. All you have to do is go to the Glock store or check them out online, shoot270.com, and talk about how you heard about them on Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis, and you get that $50 value, that unbelievable experience where you get to shoot a full auto H&K suppressed MP5, again, just for mentioning my name. It is an exciting 2025 new year and a new deal just for listeners to my show in Nashville's Morning News. By the way, even if you listen to Chris and Matt, make sure that you use my name, because we've got a little bet going on who's going to win. So go to shoot270.com, mention Dan Mandis, and I'd really appreciate it. That website, one more time, the Glock store, shoot270.com.
No new accidents to report. All accidents before have been cleared up. Look at the downtown Nashville area. 24 on the 40 has cleared up a bit. It's all clear looking at going into downtown Nashville. It picks up a little bit on 40, but other ways, it's all good to go. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We've got the terrorist attacks that we're talking about this morning. And as I keep saying, it's a lot of news coming at you. I know that it's a lot of information, but it's just a lot of details that I need to get to you this morning. One of the things that's really interesting about this, and I haven't focused as much on the Las Vegas terror attack. Basically what happened is this guy, Livelsberger, born and raised in Colorado Springs, and drove to Las Vegas. And just like the New Orleans terrorist, they both rented their vehicles using the Turo app. And so this guy, Livelsberger, yes, he rents this Tesla truck. Of course, you know who owns Tesla is Elon Musk. And he drives it to in front of the Trump hotel or tower in Las Vegas and blows it up. And so he was killed. So about 7 or so other people were injured. But people are saying, oh, I don't see the connection. Really? You don't see the connection? Where Elon Musk is very much part of the incoming Trump administration, and Donald Trump, that's his hotel. You don't think this guy was clearly a Trump-hating TDSer, a Democrat? I mean, clearly. Where it is, his family actually hated Donald Trump. And they were both in the military. And they both served at Fort Bragg. Now, the question is, because people are asking me and I don't know, the question is, did they serve at Fort Bragg at the same time, and did they know each other? And by the way, did you know that Ryan Ruth, the guy that tried to kill Donald Trump, visited Fort Bragg about 147 times? Yeah. If you Google it, that story is out there. Ryan Wesley Ruth is reported to have visited Fort Bragg numerous times, according to various sources. He visited the base, they say, 147 times over a 4-year period. Stayed overnight on 29 occasions, they say. The information has been discussed in both web articles and on X, raising questions about the nature of his visits, especially given the presence of the U.S. Army's Psychological Operations Unit at Fort Bragg. However, the exact purpose and nature of these visits remain speculative without further official confirmation, they say. So, I mean, that's part of the conversation. I don't know if these two knew each other. I'm here to tell you, it feels rather bizarre when you've got 2 terror attacks by 2 guys who were both serving at Fort Bragg at one time, and both born here in America. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what the Vegas terrorist, I don't know what his motivation would have been. It doesn't sound like it was radical Islamic terrorism like Jabbar, the guy that did New Orleans. So they may have each had their different reasons. I don't know. They're still investigating both of these. But here's one thing we do know is that Joe Biden has certainly not helped the situation at all. Everybody's favorite border czar, Jeff needs some audio. Everybody's favorite border czar, Tom Homan, was on Fox News as all of this was being discussed.
Well, look, they've been emboldened. Look what this administration done. First of all, they relaxed the sanctions against Iran, gave them billions of more dollars they can fund terrorism. Right? You know, you see marches down New York City, the streets of New York City, on the college campuses of people, carrying ISIS flags and asking for the death of America. And we allow this stuff to happen. This administration took a weak stance on this stuff. And the southern border, I'll mention again, where Tomorrow, I guarantee you, this week they're going to continue to release thousands of people from the southern border, either through the CBP-1 app, or they're going to fly them in from Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Haiti through the CHMV program to our airports. Then Border Patrol is going to release thousands of more. Nothing's going to change tomorrow. This administration is not taking action against the criminal cartels and terrorist organizations are trying to secure our southern border. You can't have national security if you don't have border security.
I mean, obviously that's correct. And so part of what's going on this morning is you got people saying, "Oh, this isn't tied to Joe Biden's open borders. The guy was born here." That is such a, what's the best way to put this? That is such a very short-sighted way to look at that. I mean, obviously, I've been regaling you with stories of all of the bad guys that have been coming across our southern border for the last 4 years. We've all been talking about this. By the way, the other thing that I love about Elon Musk is that he's actually getting credit because he helped in this investigation. This is, I believe, the sheriff talking about how Elon Musk helped in the investigation.
Yes, actually, I have to thank Elon Musk specifically. He gave us quite a bit of additional information in regards to how the vehicle was locked after it exploded due to the force of the nature of the force from the explosion, as well as being able to capture all of the video from the Tesla charging stations across the country, and he sent that directly to us, so I appreciate his help on that. I'll take one more.
It's really interesting, too, where Elon is tweeting out, and he's very proud of Tesla. Elon Musk boasts a Tesla Cybertruck contained the explosion at the Trump Hotel. Did you hear about this? It's really interesting, actually. And I'm not downplaying what happened, but in Las Vegas, only the bad guy was killed. And perhaps part of the reason is because of the way that the truck was actually designed and built. And Elon Musk is out there proud as anything because he believes, and perhaps it's true, that his Cybertruck may have actually saved lives. I've got details on that. 7:45. Time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you, Christy. As far as the weather today, it's going to be a high of 45 and right now 27 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So Elon Musk, after all this went down, they say billionaire Donald Trump surrogate Elon Musk boasted on Wednesday after a Tesla Cybertruck contained much of an explosion which took place outside Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas on New Year's Day. Here's what he tweeted. Here's what he posted on his X. The evil knuckleheads picked the wrong vehicle for a terrorist attack. Cybertrucks actually contained the explosion and directed the blast upwards instead of out. Because that was a big explosion. Have you seen it on X? I mean, it was massive.
Yeah. And do you see the video was taken, the guy's luggage was in the view because he was right there as it happened and ran back to record it.
Yeah.
So maybe Elon was right. Maybe he did save that guy's life in a sense.
He says not even the glass doors of the lobby were broken. So I think for, people are just sort of laughing at those that are saying, oh, there's no connection between, the guy steals the guy rents a Tesla owned by Elon Musk, who is very much part of the incoming Trump administration, and he drives it in front of the Trump Tower. The thing I like, and it's kind of funny, is that you do have journalists, and I get that they're trying to not speculate, but for the love of all that is holy, it is obvious to everyone who's watching that the guy was trying to make a statement by utilizing a Tesla owned by Elon Musk and pulling in front of Trump Tower. I mean, obviously the guy was trying to make a point. The big question is, did these two at some point, was this some sort of a coordinated attack? That is what we don't know. One of the more interesting parts of this conversation, by the way, Donald Trump tweeted this out, posted this on the socials. He said, our country is a disaster, a laughingstock all over the world. This is what happens when you have open borders with weak, ineffective, and virtually non-existent leadership. I mean, Donald Trump is right. I mean, here's the thing, and I know that you folks hear this literally every day, right? Where Joe Biden, whether it is the attack on Israel, where emboldened Joe Biden allowed Iran all those billions of dollars by selling the oil to China, gave Iran the ability to fund all of that terrorism, emboldens Hamas and pays Hamas to go into Israel and kill all those folks. Israel then attacks Hamas. We have all of the insanity going on here in America, all of the protests. Oh my gosh, look what Israel is doing, completely ignoring what Hamas did. And so if that was part of this guy's inspiration, and we don't know what the inspiration was, but you can trace that right back to Joe Biden.
Hey, Dan, did you watch the early news conferences that were held there in New Orleans?
No.
You really missed it.
But tell me.
It was, I've never seen anything quite like it. First of all, it was very defensive on the part of everybody that was there, especially Jeff Landry, the governor of New Orleans. He was very defensive. And it was crazy because the FBI agent who noted, I mean, as soon as the chief of police finished speaking and saying that this was a terror attack, the FBI agent, the field office agent, came up and said, "This is not a terror attack. This has to do with IUDs, IEDs."
Which was so shocking because, number one, it was clearly a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
And number two, they just said it was, and then the FBI comes in and says that it wasn't. I don't know if she just had, you're in the spotlight and all of a sudden she shanked it.
But she mentioned IEDs. But nobody else had mentioned that. So then there were all these new questions about, hey, what do you mean IEDs? Like, really?
Yeah.
And that woman, she has one of those, the affects to her voice where everything she says goes up at the end of the sentence.
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. She was driving me crazy.
Me?
Yeah, she was. Ugh.
Is she the one? Can I ask, is she the one? Did she have like a nose ring or something?
She may have.
Somebody was blasting some of the FBI folks, and then somebody said one of them had like an earring or a nose ring or something. I'm not saying that those things are evil, or dumb, although I do personally believe that they're dumb.
Just not very professional.
It's not very professional.
Evil and dumb are two very different things, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
True. If you've got to listen, I apologize to all of the nose ringers and ear ringers and lip ringers that are out there.
Earring's
I don't think
fine.
you're evil. I just don't think it's very attractive.
And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There was one other thing about that first press conference that really got me. The chief of police, I think her name is Anne, I can't remember her last name. She was the older woman with the gray hair. They get through the entire press conference. They're about ready to close it. And she says, I want everyone to go back out and have a good time today and act like nothing happened. We're just going to move on with our lives.
That is so bizarre.
It was really weird. It was super weird. That first press conference was, really a teaching moment for how not to hold a press conference after a terror attack.
Yeah, and Jeff was telling me, KGB was telling me about a tweet that the Louisiana governor sent out.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was at 7:14 p.m. on New Year's Day. So this is like basically the day after. He takes a picture in front of a steakhouse with people, goes, ate dinner tonight in New Orleans. Proud to be a part of this incredible, resilient city. See everyone at the game tomorrow. And then he goes, then he gets backlash. He goes, it's important to understand that we have many visitors in the city of New Orleans right now. Safety is our top priority, and we want our guests and the world to know that Louisiana does not cower to radical Islamic terrorists. Our restaurants in all New Orleans has to offer remain open for business.
Yeah, but man, I mean, kind of tone deaf.
The picture is what really gets him. He has his thumbs up in the picture, like,
oh Lord,
happy-go-lucky, smiling, and it's.
Is this dude a Republican or Democrat? I don't even know.
He's a Republican.
Is he Republican?
Yes, he is.
Come on, man, you know better.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, no happy pictures after a terrorist attack.
No, man.
How about 2 weeks after the terrorist attack? No happy pictures.
I don't want to see him at a steakhouse. I want to see him working on this case. That's what
a
I
great
want to see.
point also.
Boy, that is...
Yeah, a couple people died on the street, but this steak, man, is
I know.
perfect.
You know,
Cooked
15
perfectly.
people dead, but you guys got to try this steak.
Yeah. The cream spinach as well, phenomenal.
Oh, my goodness. All right, it is 7:52. Joan Jones has the news coming up.
Yeah, so getting back to what could be considered normal today in New Orleans, we'll tell you about the plans that are going on there. Also, a Nashville teenager charged with trying to kill his own sisters. Those stories coming up at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. 7:53, Nashville's Morning News. Friends, if you have a piece of property that you don't know what to do with, think about a pole barn from my friends at Stoltzco. They are the premier pole barn builders here in the state of Tennessee. You know, they're putting up a pole barn from Stoltzco. It could increase the value of your land big time. You can use it as a garage, an event space, an equestrian building, or you could just live in it. The thing is, pole barns from Stoltzco, they are flexible and built really well. You can also plan ahead and build your retirement home. This is the company that I trust, and this is the company that I endorse for pole barns here in Tennessee. Call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-622-5992, 615-622-5992. You can also find Stoltzco on Instagram and Facebook as well. They've got great social media. You can see their work, or at their website, STOLTZCO, Stoltzco.com. 7:58, Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, Joan.
Yeah.
People are mocking you on the super text line.
Oh no, why now?
They caught your slip.
So, that's so funny. My husband just came in and caught my slip as well.
So you called an IED an IUD. People are like, I didn't know those could explode.
Yeah, they can be dangerous. Sorry, no, I didn't mean that. I meant IED.
I actually said here's what's funny. I actually said to KGB earlier, I said, every time, this was off the air.
Yeah.
I said, every time I hear IED, I think IUD.
Yeah, as she was saying that, I'm like, oh, this is like in Dan's head right now. Like
that's exactly right. I have
serendipitous.
I have in my notes. I have IED in my notes, and I've got it in red font and big, so I don't say IUD.
Yeah.
Because I'm the guy that's going to do that because I keep calling X Twitter.
Well, that's okay.
No, everyone does that.
People
I
are
do
calling me out. It's like,
So great minds think alike is what's going on here. Right?
Sure, Joan.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just go with me, Dan.
Okay, I'll
Jeez.
go with you.
Thank
it's fine. By the way, remember our deal, Super Texters. And Joan, you can be in on the deal too. You want to be in on my deal with the Super Texters?
Yeah.
Okay. You folks can bash and criticize me and Joan and KGB all you want, but it has to be followed by something nice.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
Okay.
Nice beanie.
0050 said that they called it an IUD yesterday too. So there you go.
There you go. It's not just us. Again, great minds. Thank you. 7:59, Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 8 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Bourbon Street will reopen later today to pedestrians. Police in New Orleans plan to hold an updated news conference later today as well. Now, among the safety measures that they'll address this afternoon's Sugar Bowl game, they'll have extra security at a level similar to that of the Super Bowl. The Sugar Bowl was meant to take place last night, but it was postponed to today following yesterday's attack. On NBC News this morning, New Orleans Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick announced that the police have people of interest, but she says they're not being considered suspects at this time. She added that the FBI, which is leading the investigation, was in the process of tracking down everybody. Those are her words. Investigators are also looking into the possibility of a military link between the suspect in this case and the person who died when a Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. Locally, a 17-year-old has been charged after allegedly shooting at a vehicle, injuring his two younger sisters inside. Metro Nashville police haven't identified that teenager, but they do say he opened fire on the vehicle in Antioch Park on Blue Hole Road about 5 o'clock on New Year's morning. Now, the two sisters are ages 12 and 13. They suffered non-critical injuries. 5 others in the car were not hurt. The teenager showed up at the hospital where his sisters had been taken and confessed to the shooting, saying he believed that those inside the car had been involved in a series of burglaries. He's been charged with attempted murder in juvenile court. Well, there were 2 devastating fires in the Nashville area on New Year's Day. Smoky Bar News reporting a Cedar Hill home was completely destroyed by a fire that started around dinner time last night. Now, the husband and wife who lived there, and by the way, they are expecting a baby, they were not home at the time of the fire, and the cause of the fire is still under investigation. Also, an apartment building fire uprooted 8 families in Donaldson. The Highland on Briley apartments went up in flames about 1 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day. Nashville fire crews put the flames out in 4 units, but the fire sparked up again, spreading to 4 more units. The Red Cross has stepped in to help everybody who's been displaced. And Coca-Cola is bringing back one of its flavors, one that hasn't been on store shelves since 2007. Lime Coke was first introduced in 2005. It was available for only 2 years before it was axed by the franchise over slow sales. It's testing the sale of lime Coke again in the UK right now, but it's not clear when U.S. Coca-Cola fans will be able to get their hands on that flavor again. That is the latest news. We've got traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis from Nashville's Morning News. The Wall Street Journal reported a while ago that people are feeling stress, anxiety, and depression because of this election. If that's you, talk to my guy, Dr. Christopher Van Schenk. He is a psychiatrist out in Nolensville. Now, he can help you with not only depression, if you're feeling it because of politics or whatever, but he can also help you with alcoholism, drug abuse as well. Go to his website, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. He's got a long list of conditions that he can help you with, either in person or at telehealth. Bottom line is, he wants to make it as easy as possible for you to get the help that you need. He can help your kids as well. Check him out online. Again, nolensvillepsychiatry.com. The number's below. Thanks for listening, and good luck.
Still no new accidents to report. 24 on the 40 going into downtown Nashville. It's picked up a little bit of steam there, a little moderate bit of traffic. 65, though, is looking pretty open going into the downtown area. 65 south, though, getting a little bit, but nothing to be concerned with. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.806, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends, along with Joan Jones. KGB, Jeff Malinoff, is producing this morning, and it's pretty much been a one-topic show today, and it's, of course, the two terror attacks, one in New Orleans, the other in Las Vegas. There is a guy named Sean Ryan, and he does a podcast, a really good podcast, as a matter of fact, and he's actually based here in Franklin. And one of the topics that they talk about often, of course, is terrorism. He's a military guy. And he had a woman on named Sarah Adams. She was an intelligence analyst and somebody who talked a lot about and speaks a lot about these things. And she writes a lot about national security issues and terrorism. And I'm going to play you a couple of clips because she was on Sean's podcast. And it's incredible, some of the things that she says. And the amount of terrorists that she believes are in this country.
So wait a minute. I just want to clarify. You are 100% certain that there are 1,000 plus Al-Qaeda trained fighters within the United States borders?
Well, Al-Qaeda says they trained and deployed 1,000 for this attack. First off, I think there's more than 1,000 Al-Qaeda members in the United States. But for the Homeland attack, that number is based on what Al-Qaeda is saying, so they could exaggerate it. However, they did have about 1,400 in the Hamas attack, so the number is not off from what they did in the first round of attacks.
I mean, obviously, that's very scary. But you know what? To me, those numbers check out. Does it surprise you? Those numbers, 1,400? It doesn't surprise me at all. I'll be honest with you, and I don't mean to scare folks, but I'm nothing but a talk show host. But to be honest with you, number one, that sounds a little low. Number two is you can have these, as Sarah mentioned, these Al-Qaeda or, these trained fighters, if you will. Well, I don't know if the terrorist from New Orleans or the terrorist from the Las Vegas attack, I don't know if I would call them, and I'm going to air quote here, Islamist trained fighters or Al-Qaeda trained fighters. I don't know if you would call them that. They were both in the military, but I don't know if they would fall into that category. They are trained fighters because they're in the military. But she was also talking about how there are going to be more attacks just like this. Again, this is from the Sean Ryan podcast. Listen to this.
What kind of places do you think they're going to target?
So this is what's complicated. So Al-Qaeda's preference, as you can imagine, is symbols of the U.S. or anything that causes economic damage, right? So Capitol is a great symbol. Capitol was actually in, I think the Capitol is, a lot of people are targeting it, but the Capitol was in their propaganda just as 9/11 when they were memorializing 9/11, right? So the Capitol matters. I feel like bridges or any kind of public transportation always matters because it puts costs against us and it causes fear. But here's where it gets complicated. So remember, the terrorists might have their goal is they're going to attack the metro in D.C., right? But remember, some of these terrorists are going to be ISIS. And remember, they can change location. So the ISIS guy might go down the metro and say, there's not many people down here. I'll kill 20, but there's a event going on. I'm going to go up there, right? And because ISIS is a little different. ISIS just wants mass casualty. So it's going to be interesting how it works with terrorists that came from different backgrounds and when they get choice.
Yeah, and remember, of course, and I've been reporting this and just reminding you all morning long that it's estimated that there are a lot of these various terrorists, ISIS connections that have come across our southern border. And here's the problem. And I bet you this, I bet you Sean Ryan or his guest Sarah Adams, they would both perhaps say that we don't know what we don't know. Now, they sound like they know a lot, but how much do we really know? We know that fighting age males have been coming over our southern border with no family. We have no idea who they are. They haven't been vetted from all kinds of places, including China and Iran and Syria. All these other places that hate America. They've been coming across our border unvetted. And Biden has just been letting them in.
So some of these terrorist organizations are looking for very strategic stuff like U.S. Capitol, basically U.S. governmental infrastructure and elites. And then on the other hand, you have what I'm used to seeing when we were over there. They just look for the easiest, the easiest, biggest target because they want to kill the most amount of people in the quickest amount of time and get the most press out of it.
Yep.
And so that would lead me to believe universities, churches, stadiums.
It's what we've been talking about all the time. Soft targets. And we've been talking about soft targets since 9/11 of 2001. Even before that, actually, people who really know a lot of this stuff. So for me, and I keep saying this, and I'm about ready to wrap up my part of the program here on WTN for today. But if you're thinking that this whole thing is going to wrap up when Donald Trump gets into office, friends, no, that's not the way that it's going to work. Now, very quickly, there was a story today, and it's a great story just in the sense that it kind of ties in with everything that's been going on today. By the way, just very quickly, Jabbar, this guy, the New Orleans terrorist, they found at his house, he lived in a broken down trailer park, and it was mostly Muslims who lived there. And they found all kinds of animals. They had geese, and he had geese and chickens and sheep roaming his yard, and the whole place just looks run down. So part of the conversation here has to be, okay, so the guy whose life had been going downhill big time, the guy from New Orleans, and he's a couple of divorces. He was broke. He's purported to be a real estate agent. He called himself a real estate agent, but clearly he had no money. And he said that he was going to kill his family. That's part of the news today. He had posted a couple of videos, and he had posted them to his socials, and he said that he was going to kill his family. Obviously, he didn't get around to it because they took him out in New Orleans, thankfully, but not before he killed 15 people. And so part of my question and part of what everybody wants to know is, okay, so were there signs that were missed? That's always going to be one of those questions because we're always trying to figure out, okay, so what's going to be next? And just like what Sean Ryan was talking about. I just played you the audio. Because what they're describing is something, it seems to me, what they're describing is something far, far bigger. I mean, they're talking about, what did she say, 1,400 trained al-Qaeda terrorists? And you got, brain dead Biden allowing all these people across our southern border, northern border as well. Remember, Canada's on this too. This is why Donald Trump has been threatening tariffs against Canada and against Mexico because of just this kind of thing. I mean, Donald Trump knows what's come across our northern and southern border. He knows. And that's why he's been threatening Canada and Mexico with high tariffs, because the former and future president understands the threats that are coming across our borders. It is 8:15, time to check the roads on WTN. All right, very good. As far as your weather today, a high of 45, mostly clear skies. Right now, 27 at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's a headline for you from the New York Post. You ready? Plea deal for KSM and other 9/11 terrorists is a final Biden screw you to America. Remember that story that the Biden administration cut a deal so that those 9/11 masterminds would avoid the death penalty, kind of like they did with those 37 people on the federal death row. Remember that whole thing? Remember when Biden did the same thing for these 9/11 terrorists? 3 terrorists accused of helping orchestrate the 9/11 attacks will avoid the death penalty after the Pentagon's challenge to their sweetheart plea deal was smacked down by a military appeals court judge. The ruling capped off a 5-month whiplash-inducing saga and came as a blow to victims' families who have been holding out hope for justice for nearly a quarter century. So you remember the story. The Biden administration orchestrated this whole thing. Then the Pentagon, in my opinion, feigned confusion. And they tried to fight it. What do you mean the Biden administration doesn't want these guys to face the death penalty? And the Pentagon tried to, I'm going to air quote this, fight this. But the reality is, in my opinion, they were more than likely in on the whole thing, as the Biden administration orchestrates these guys to be able to serve the rest of their lives in prison. With all their halal meals and their libraries and, their exercise equipment. I remember that whole story where these guys are living large. Remember that? This was a big story a while back where these guys were living large out at Gitmo. And so Biden decides that he's going to make sure that they stay alive and that we don't put them to death like the absolute dogs that they are. And then everybody started pointing fingers. Once they saw the backlash, everybody started pointing fingers at each other. Well, the New York Post isn't buying any of this. So they did come out with this opinion piece, and I love it. The Biden administration's toxic legacy continues to do grave harm to Americans and the national interest. The latest outrage is the renewed likelihood that the 9/11 masterminds will avoid the death penalty, thanks to Joe Biden. On Monday, an appeals court tossed Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's move to quash plea deals offered to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and co-conspirators Walid bin Attash and Mustafa al-Hawasi. I'm sure I shanked them, but I don't care. These deals were signed in July by senior defense officials and retired Brigadier General Susan Escalier, an Austin appointee to the Office of Military Commissions. So a lot of names and departments are being thrown around, but New York Post and I both agree that this whole thing has been orchestrated by whoever has been running the Biden administration to make sure that these 9/11 masterminds, not only that they would stay alive, but that the American people end up paying for them to stay alive with all of their halal meals and the exercise. If you don't know what a halal meal is, it's basically a meal that is adheres to their Muslim tradition. And it's horrifying. It is disgusting that Joe Biden, I think this is the final FU to America, courtesy of Joe Biden. 5 months ago, he said, no, I don't want them to be put to death. And then you've got some people at the Pentagon saying, oh, no, we can't have that. I believe that they're all in on it. They say Escalier from the Biden administration horrified America and the families of 9/11 victims when she okayed the monstrous agreements. Austin, after publicly, pathetically confessing to have been surprised by the move, tried to nix the moves, prompting a legal tussle that at the moment seems to have been resolved not in favor of justice and America, but injustice and her enemies. The whole episode reeks of cowardice, incompetence at the highest levels, and I agree. It is sad, isn't it, that the worst people in our prisons, Joe Biden has decided that those are the people that he needs to have sympathy for. No sympathy for the families of 9/11. No sympathy for the families and the loved ones of all of those people that those 37 murderers on federal death row killed. Joe Biden has sympathy. President Biden has sympathy for the wrong individuals, whether they're 9/11 mastermind terrorists or they're people who have committed heinous acts of murder. Somehow Joe Biden feels like they are worthy of sympathy. And clearly Joe Biden is siding with the wrong people. And so here's the thing. As we continue to deal with and talk about and learn about all of these landmines that Joe Biden has left Donald Trump, and trust me when I say, we're going to keep discovering more as time goes on, including future terrorist attacks. The more that we see this, not to politicize these tragedies, not to politicize these terror attacks, but the more these attacks happen and the more these stories become known and well known and better known, which is why I'm talking about it now, the more people will look not at Joe Biden, but the entire Democrat Party as clearly, along with the mainstream media, as enemies of the American people. It is 8:22, and Joan Jones has the news coming up. Joan?
Yeah, it looks like the FBI has just concluded a search of the Houston home where that New Orleans attacker lived. We'll tell you what they found there. We'll tell you also why the housing market is still showing signs of a slump. Those stories are coming up at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, Joan, what's amazing about that dude's house outside of Houston? Do you know that the throngs of media had actually arrived at his broken down trailer before the authorities, before the FBI. They had been there for hours, and they're like, "Where the heck is the FBI?" And finally, the authorities show up at this dude's house.
That's just crazy, and it's.
You would
There's
think
so
that
much
would be
here
the
that points to
first
the
thing.
FBI not being on their game. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, and the American people are paying the price. Joan, thank you. We'll talk to you at 8:30. It is 8:23. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And you know, these days, I really appreciate our great American heroes, law enforcement, and people that truly just take advantage and appreciate all that America has to offer. Enter my friends at Brentwood Jewelry. Now, I've been a customer and a fan of Brentwood Jewelry for a long time. Now, for over 50 years, Brentwood Jewelry has been proudly serving the Brentwood community with exceptional style and deals every single day. Now, this is a family-owned company. They have been in business for 3 generations. Again, 50 years. They're deeply rooted in the community of Brentwood and Middle Tennessee. From Salem's service in the Special Forces to his son serving as local firefighters, the Imam Ali family, they are dedicated to giving back in a time that it is imperative to support local stores. Brentwood Jewelry is a place that you do really need to shop. Brentwood Jewelry. You can find them online, brentwoodjewelry.com. Exceptional style, exceptional deals every day for over 50 years. That address, you need it. 7012 Church Street East, located in the heart of Brentwood, just off Franklin Road. Again, brentwoodjewelry.com. 828, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. Coming up next, is Chris Hand here today? Is he working today? Who's on 9 to 12? Anybody know? I have not seen Chris yet today. So hopefully it's Chris. I don't know if he's here or not, but we'll visit with Chris Hand coming up at 8:35 for the official cross. What are you saying? Help me out, Malinoff.
Chris is right behind me.
Oh, is he? Okay, good. Chris is here. Let's do a bet, Malinoff. Who do you think made it further into the night, me or Chris? And let's not reveal our discussion at 5:35. So let's do this because Chris was bragging the other day that he and his wife were going to go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And so I want people to know, who do you think made it further into the night on New Year's Eve, me or Chris Hand?
He's got younger kids, so I
don't make excuses for him. I've got an 11-year-old in the house.
It's my game plan. I think you outlasted him.
You like Chris Hand better than me. Let's be honest.
No, I just gave you the W just now.
Yeah, I know.
I said you're the winner. Or if going till midnight is the win. But yeah, my bet would be you outlasted him for sure.
All right. Very good. I want to know what people think on the super text line, 615-737.
It's going to get mean.
9986, 615-737 WWTN. We did something crazy, by the way, on New Year's Eve in my house. You don't want to know all the details, but we did something crazy in my house. We're going to tell you about that. Coming up on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. New year, new comfort. Winter warm-up specials from my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. By the way, they are your Rude Pro partner. Now listen, when it comes to HVAC, you can't beat these deals. Free air duct cleaning with purchase of a new, complete whole home AC. Free air duct cleaning as well. That's a package upgrade. You buy the middle package, you're upgraded to the deluxe package. Free furnace checkup as well with any heating repair service. 15% off indoor air quality products. And how about a complimentary smart thermostat with any HVAC replacement? That, my friends, is a $200 value. This is why I've been a customer of Busy Bee HVAC for so long. So call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833. Again, they are your Rude Pro partner. Find them online, busybeehvac.com.
Good morning, 8:30 now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. The FBI has conducted an early morning search of the Houston home where the New Orleans attacker lived. That search has just concluded. The FBI is not saying what it's found in the home, but they are saying that there is no threat to residents in that area. They'll talk more about this search at a news conference that's scheduled for 11 o'clock Eastern time this morning. Now, the chief of the New Orleans Police Department is promising a substantial increase in law enforcement presence today as the city is hosting the Sugar Bowl one day after that playoff game was postponed following the Bourbon Street terror attack. Ann Kirkpatrick is telling NBC's Today Show that there will be a much heavier equipment to harden soft targets. Meantime, the man suspected of carrying out that New Orleans attack had been managing a third divorce and custody battle and had been mired in credit card and mortgage debt despite a well-paying job with the firm Deloitte. The court had ordered Deloitte to withhold child support payments from his paychecks, and one of his ex-wives was granted their marital home instead of selling it and splitting the proceeds. It's not clear at what point that suspect also became a radicalized Muslim follower. Well, there was a sharp rise in mortgage interest rates toward the end of December, and that led to a sharp drop in mortgage applications. They dropped 22%. The 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is increased to nearly 7% with higher fees. The Mortgage Bankers Association saying that there are more homes on the market now than they were at this time last year, but that many of them are sitting on the market for months because of high prices and higher interest rates. That's the latest news. We've got your traffic and weather still to come. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
We got an accident in East Nashville, an overturned vehicle with the right lane blocked. That's Ellington Parkway southbound before Douglas Avenue. It's around the downtown Nashville area. It's starting to pick up a little bit heading into the downtown area on 65 South. 65 North going up to the downtown area, though, is clear, and 40 East and West are both looking pretty good. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.835 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time. I've decided, to call these now at 8:35 the cross.
All right.
It's time for the cross. By the way, don't let it distract you. It's been distracting listeners all morning long, but Joan Jones is in her pajamas.
Oh, no.
And I was chastised by, get your minds out of the gutter, people. And why is it that when I admitted that, I would do broadcasts in my pajamas, nobody seemed to be distracted by that.
I bet your pajamas aren't as cute.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, Joan. I've admitted that I've got puppy dog pajamas.
Oh, jeez.
Good Lord.
TMI.
Shut up,
It's always
KGB.
good.
But they're cute. They're cute pajamas. My wife bought them for me. My first
My
wife.
pajamas
They've got
would not be
actually
suitable.
holes in them now.
Oh, jeez.
My pajamas are not suitable for public.
All right.
Why do you have to go weird?
Come on, Chris.
KGB. Why do you have to
Some
go
pajama
weird?
confessions,
That's what I
please?
learned getting trained by Putin. That's how I learned.
What did you just say? What did you just say?
So he was trained by Putin.
That's how
Oh.
He was making a KGB joke.
Wait, right over my head, man. All right, very good. How long did you last on New Year's Eve?
I stayed up till about 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
My kids beat me. My kids came up. It was like 5 minutes to go. They're like, the ball's about to drop. I was like, I've seen it before.
I don't care.
Not
going to bed.
Okay, so
this happens
So I
every
went
year.
to bed before any of you.
Did you?
I went to bed at 9.
You went to bed at 9.
Yeah, I actually I took a melatonin at like 8:45 because I just was done with the day. I just I'm going to bed.
You have to pop things to go to sleep?
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
Joan, have you seen my schedule in the last month? It has been just turn on its head. I had to do something.
Mm.
Oh, you all right,
Yeah.
KGB? Is everything all right?
Have fun doing the show by yourself.
baby.
I was awake at 12:30. I went to bed at 10, but my old man bladder kept meaning that I had to get up.
Oh.
It is the most awful. Joan, does that happen to your husband?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I have to admit.
Listen, I'm just what? Why is that awkward to talk
Why
about?
don't you should do what I do with my kids and just cut off liquids at like 6:30.
That's what Amy says, and you know what? That makes all the sense in the world.
You just have to limit the liquid intake, and your outtake will drastically drop.
I know. My problem is that I like to drink, coffee.
Okay. All right.
And throat coat.
Coffee's the worst.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
When is your last cup of coffee during the day? What time?
Usually by about 4.
4 o'clock is your last cup of coffee?
Yeah.
And then you go to bed at like 6:30.
I've said many, many times, I can't sleep without coffee.
That's the craziest thing.
Oh, I know. It is crazy. But, I mean, sadly, that is the truth. So
It's just your way of life now.
Yeah, that is exactly it. That is just how I am able to get to sleep. It is rather bizarre. What did you watch any of the CNN stupidity?
No, but I caught it on Twitter after the fact.
All right, so they had a comedian on, and funny as all get out. What was her name again?
Whitney Cummings.
Whitney Cummings. All right, you ready? Jeff, I need some audio, please. This is on CNN.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off?
Go for it.
That's awesome. I mean, I cannot stop listening to this one particular cut enough.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off?
Go for it.
She got hit with a
It was
man, this
amazing
awkward
that the
silence.
pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's. Oh, God. Andy just gave me a very scary look.
No!
So that is Whitney Cummings.
I can only imagine behind the scenes just the panic that was going on.
You know what? They let her go. I don't know. Is she a conservative or she's just a joke teller? That's my question.
She's pretty middle of the
She's a
road.
comedian?
Yeah, she's just a comedian.
Yeah.
Okay.
They let her go. Here, you guys want to hear another cut?
Yeah.
This is, we are in delay, right? Because I don't know what she did.
Yeah, we are delayed. I have the dump button ready.
Okay.
Well,
I've been
2024
mentally preparing.
If you're listening on the stream, you might get a free expletive.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary.
The same damn darn cut.
Dan was the only one that swore.
Yeah, it's like, do I have to dump Dan now?
I'm sorry, no. Whitney. I don't know why anybody watches Anderson Cooper.
No, I don't. I don't know why either.
I mean, yeah, he and the guy that's with him, I don't know who that is.
Andy Cohen.
And no,
They're terrible.
Is that Andy Cohen?
The guy in the middle? Yeah, that was Andy Cohen, the Bravo TV guy.
Let's see if this is a better soundbite.
Let me be clear, though. 2024 was not only negative. The media wants us to believe this country is so divided, but we actually came together a lot this year. Like, as a nation, we unanimously agreed that we would rather see J-Lo in a toxic relationship than in concert. We all agreed the government totally knows what drones are and aren't telling us. The drones are still up there, and we have no idea what's behind them. No idea. I mean, they're still up in the sky, so I guess we can rule out that they were made by Boeing. The point is, I think we all agree on a lot of things. And since I only have a minute left live on establishment media, why don't we just say a bunch of things that we know that they'll never cover? Okay.
Oh, God.
All right. My finger is so dangerously close to the dump button.
All right, let's see if this is something we haven't heard yet.
Ready, go. Trump Jr. didn't have any silverware in his house. No one thought that was weird?
Is that true?
Yeah, he had nothing in his house. His house was completely cleaned. It looked like a forensic team went in there and
Ryan
just
Ruth?
bleached this. No, the first shooter, Matthew Crooks.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
That was also like hours after the fact, too. So it was.
He had no silverware.
Nope.
He had nothing.
Nothing.
Interesting.
Weird, right?
All right.
Are we still rolling? Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia put money into Disney, so just know there won't be any girl characters in the next Cars movie.
That's a good one.
All right.
Nice.
Next.
Are we still rolling? This is wild. Okay. Why have so many presidents' chefs died? Weird.
What did she say?
The president. Why did so many presidents' chefs die? Weird.
Oh, Obama chef.
Yeah. Paddleboarding.
Yeah. Paddleboarding.
I was about to do it too. Paddleboarding.
Air quotes. Just so everybody knows, Jeff did air quotes on that.
Well, we both did.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Talk about it. I didn't do that.
There is video. There is video evidence. It's not just radio anymore.
We can fix that on post production. All right.
Fix it in post. The classic phrase.
Let's see what else she says.
Boy Scout of America, they renamed itself Scouting America. You know who else changed their name? Sean Combs. Just saying. Let's learn something in 2025. I can't believe you guys are still letting me go. This is amazing. I love CNN. Please stop me, Andy, because I will just keep going.
Happy.
There you go.
That Happy New Year was the please shut up version.
They let her go.
I like it. I like it.
Well, honestly, they would get more crap if they stopped her. I feel like.
Well, look, they had to have known what she was going to do, right? I mean, don't they?
I don't think they did.
No, you think?
I think that they. First of all, I think that all the people that were there were too drunk to really care.
Fair. Did you see the other clip of the black guy being offered a drink, and he said, no, no, no. The last time a black man drank during CNN's New Year's Eve, he got fired by the network.
No.
He was alluding to Don Lemon.
Lemon, nice.
No, but that I should have found that. I try to just avoid CNN just because it's so I don't understand. I don't understand the appeal of a bunch of drunk people. Like
No.
I don't find it appealing.
I actively avoid going out on New Year's Eve because of it.
Yeah.
All we did was we went to, you know what we did?
What'd you do?
We went to Burger Republic.
Oh, all right.
That was our big New Year's Eve. We wanted to be back in time.
What'd you get?
I would say probably a burger.
Well, no.
Good,
Burger,
Joan.
there's so much.
Yeah.
But like, they have also crab dip. That's pretty good, if I remember. Or not crab dip. It's like, what is it? I have to remember now. But they have a good dip there, too.
Nailed the story. I want that.
I don't know, man. You know what I did have? I had a chocolate shake. They have something called a chocolate, I don't know what it is. Like it's like a chocolate Godzilla thing. And Amy was like, "You really going to have that?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to have it." And she said, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm not drinking. So I got to do some sort of a vice. It's New Year's Eve."
A vice.
And so that's what I did. Did you do any drinking, Joan, or I know Malinoff? You were like,
I got cognac as a gift from Jennifer Sheets, but I haven't opened it yet. But I don't. Yeah, I was by myself. If I drink, it'd been very depressing.
Cognac.
Yeah, she gave me cognac for a Christmas gift.
Wow.
Isn't that nice?
I'm not exactly sure what cognac is, but it sounds good.
The rappers drink it.
Oh, the rappers drink it?
rappers.
Oh, yeah.
It's a how do I say that? It's a fancy bourbon in a sense.
Okay, very good. Well, I've never had bourbon
I could
either,
be
so.
wrong. Someone correct me, but I think it's in the bourbon family.
This is Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper.
25 is everything
I'm
you
really
want
hoping
it
we
to
don't
be.
get fired.
Well, sweetie, I don't think you're gonna get fired.
You know what's funny?
Are they hammered on TV as
No,
talking
one
about
guy-
who's
one
going to
guy-
get fired?
One guy was tripping on like LSD or something. He admitted it.
So if I called Malinoff sweetie, I'm pretty sure that I would be hauled off to human resources.
Yeah, I would be talking to Paul right now.
Sweetie.
Yeah, Andy Cohen. Are they together? Like Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen?
I don't know.
Well,
No.
isn't sweetie
It
like
all makes
reserved for someone that you are currently involved in a relationship with?
How would you know this, Dan?
I call my wife sweetie,
Okay.
among other things.
Well, you could also, if it's an elderly woman, they can call me sweetie. I feel like that, like the elderly women that are just like they're being polite. I feel like that's the if someone's calling you sweetie, hopefully they're.
Jeff, do you have a
elderly
pet
range.
name for Natasha yet?
No.
How about Svetlana?
Guys, it's not like we've been on like one date. Can we calm down for a
Wait, you
second?
still haven't gone on a second date?
She's been in Florida. We've discussed this.
That's right. You were giving her space, right?
What's your name again?
I'm not going to say her name because.
No, what's your name
Oh,
again? You're like,
my
guys,
name?
we discussed this. I'm like, who are you again?
Oh, right.
If I have to explain the joke, man, you got to keep up.
So we are now 1-1 when it comes to jokes going over each other's heads.
That's all right. All right, very good. When is date number 2 with Natasha?
Next week when she gets back.
All right, where are you guys going? What are you gonna do?
Putt shack.
Is that a Russian thing?
No. It's a fun little. It's an indoor mini golf course for adults, like with beers, and it's at a bar and stuff. It's nice. It's
All
fun.
right.
She's a golfer too, so it makes sense.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Putt shack.
She's probably a better putter than I am. I'm more of a mid 3-wood kind of guy, middle of course,
I
second
think
shot
we've gone
guy.
down just the totally wrong path here.
Pretty sure we don't want to hear about your wood.
Nope.
Jeff.
Not the
Oh
third
my
one
god,
either.
it's a freaking golf course, you loons.
25 is everything
I'm
you
really
want
hoping
it
we
to
don't
be.
get fired.
Well, sweetie, I don't think you're gonna get fired.
Well,
I think you're good.
I got a contract.
I'm going back
Maybe
to
you'll be
Bravo.
fired.
Well, I'm going back to Bravo. That's cool. Bravo, here I come. New season.
Maybe we got to do that. A WTN. You think maybe,
Drink on New Year's Eve?
Do you know who would be really fun? So next New Year's Eve, Murphy, Mandis, Hand, and Chad. And Joan, you can come too. And we all and Weaver. Oh my gosh.
Oh, he'd be fun.
We all got to just have a get drunk broadcast. Who's in?
I'll bring the cognac if I'm invited.
All right, now
I'll run the board and the dump button. How about that?
So we'll need some more dump buttons. But who do you think is the funnest drunk of WTN?
Oh, it would be
Murphy.
Weaver. I would say Weaver.
I'm torn between Murphy and Weaver.
Yeah.
Them together, I could just see them arm wrestling for no reason whatsoever.
Somebody be brawling with Murphy.
Oh,
100%.
Yeah.
He'd be looking for a fight.
You know what? Oh, here's what you do. So get Murphy liquored up.
Yeah.
And then walk up to him and ask him about polling.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's the trick.
My gosh. I had to produce that. I was uncomfortable.
I loved every minute of that. If you know, you know.
Do we all know what we're talking about?
Dan like glanced over to me during that exchange, and I had the biggest smile on my face. I was like, "Here we go."
That was during election coverage.
This is what we signed up for.
So if anybody missed it, it's not a big deal. But Murphy and Brian got into it about polling at the election coverage in a moment that I believe still lives in infamy.
Everybody was whipping their polls out.
It's still up on our YouTube.
And comparing.
So as that all was going on, me and Chris are looking at each other, and I'm like, "What the hell are we supposed to do?"
I was just enjoying it.
I was praying for them to go to commercial break.
I think we did throw to break, didn't we?
No, we threw to break, and because I was running the board for that election coverage, I just knew I could tell Wilson was uncomfortable, and Murphy did not care, and I'm just like, oh God, just go, just someone go.
All right, now listen, it's not a big deal. And I don't want to throw any gasoline on the fire that was that night, the dumpster fire of that night.
Let's be perfectly honest. We all work in politics, and we have different opinions, and it gets heated sometimes. Murphy still showed up at Wilson's Christmas party.
Yeah,
we're all pals.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to make this sound worse than it was.
Water under the bridge.
Nobody wants to make it seem worse than it was, but it was fun to be there.
You see, I didn't find it fun. I did. You would find it fun. I found it increasingly uncomfortable as it was going on.
It was the beginning of my shift. That's why I found it uncomfortable, because it was like the first thing happened on my shift was that. I'm like, oh God, another 4 hours or 5 hours of this or midnight.
You know, I love those two guys. Like I really do.
They're passionate.
And so I was just a little uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable.
I could feel it.
Hey, KGB.
Yes.
What's the name of the new? I want to get Chris in on this. What's the name of the new January 1st? We talked about it at 5:35. What's the new
Beta? Generation Beta.
Generation Beta.
You're acting like Biden there for a second, just like your brain flatlined.
I know it happens. I've been up for a long time.
Is this the generation after Gen Alpha?
Yeah.
Okay, so is Gen Beta the new ones being born right now?
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that a shame?
Is that
midnight?
Is that just setting them up for failure?
It is pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
I'm so surprised that's a derogatory name. That doesn't strike a chord with me.
It's a soy boy.
Yeah, betas and soy boys.
Beta's a soy boy.
It just caught on social media, and people just used it since.
Yep.
I guess I'm not cool and up to date with the
fortunately,
words.
millennials is a better one.
You know what's gonna happen is all the alphas in like 5th grade are gonna be picking on all the betas in 4th grade, and that's just gonna be going on for like years.
Yeah,
that's what's probably gonna happen.
We're looking forward to the great Alpha Beta War of 2080.
We're all just in our rockers. Well, me and Chris will still be alive, probably. We'll both be in our rockers, just laughing, drinking the bourbon.
What are you trying to say there, Jeff?
Jesus.
Right.
2080? 2080.
I don't think you're going to be alive in 2080.
See, I was born in 95. I can be alive in 2080. I will do it out of spite.
All right, well, very good.
That'll show Mandis.
Trust me when I say I will no longer care at that point. Oh, wait. Whatever. This has been a terrible bit. I'm just going to tell you all. We need to start bringing more content.
We never do.
Chris, what's coming up?
Well, we're going to talk about what happened in New Orleans. We're going to talk about what happened in Texas. And we're going to talk about what happened in Las Vegas.
Jones, what's up?
Well, we'll tell you what the New Orleans terrorist brother has to say about why his sibling turned to terror. Also, why the governor of Louisiana is being criticized today. Those stories coming up at 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joe. And 8:53, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Dan Mandis here. Start your year off stress-free and sell your home with a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. I always recommend Mark Spain Real Estate here in Nashville because they do a great job. I know that I can trust that they're going to sell your home hassle-free with a strong all-cash offer. As a matter of fact, Mark Spain Real Estate, they were ranked on the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest growing companies in the U.S. for now the 8th year in a row. They respond fast, and yes, they are one of the most experienced real estate teams in Nashville. Mark Spain Real Estate sells more than 33 homes a day, making them the most experienced real estate team in America. You can trust them to sell your home hassle-free, again, with the strongest cash offer in the industry. Find them online. It is markspain.com. That is markspain.com. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 855-299-SOLD. That's 855-299-SOLD. markspain.com. $8:56 on Nashville's Morning. What did that person say?
I said Dan has the sweetest PJs. I waited to read that right before Dan jumped in to do his commercial.
Ready to open the mic, and then he said Dan has the sweetest PJs. He sounded like Andy Cohen when he said it.
No, I didn't.
Hey, moving right along. Dan Mandis here. My company for foundation repair and concrete leveling is United Structural Systems. They fixed my foundation. They can help you as well. They're awesome, easy to work with, and above all, competent and reasonable. If you notice doors and windows sticking, uneven floors, maybe gaps between the trim and the ceiling, these are all signs that you might have a possible foundation issue. And nobody does it better than USS, United Structural Systems. They've been serving Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they've helped thousands of satisfied homeowners with great work and fantastic communication as well. They're going to give you a free inspection and detailed estimate before you make a decision. Communication is always key to making sure that everybody is on the same page, and you don't pay a dime until the work is done and you are a satisfied customer. USS for all your foundation, concrete leveling, and waterproofing needs. Call them at 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855. Find them online. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, USSTN.com.